Yo, what's up? Welcome to HP Story, where stories come alive. Buckle up because today we have What If Sirius and Regulus Black raised Harry, Hermione, and Neville? Quick favor, if you dig this content, drop a like and subscribe. It takes just a second but means so much to us. Let's roll! Chapter 1. The House of Black. Sirius Black knew something was wrong the moment his mirror buzzed. James had never used it this late, not since Harry was born. The haunted look in his best friend's eyes made Sirius's blood run cold. He's coming, Padfoot. Right now. Dumbledore was right. Peter betrayed us. Sirius was already grabbing his wand, leather jacket forgotten on the floor. I'm coming. Activate the wards. Now. No time. Get Dumbledore. The mirror went dark. Sirius didn't hesitate. He sprinted to his motorcycle, heart hammering against his ribs. The engine roared to life as he kicked it into gear, the charms activating as he shot into the night sky. Godric's Hollow was only minutes away by flying motorcycle, but every second felt like torture. He saw the smoke before he even reached the village. No, 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 he muttered, pushing the bike faster than it was ever meant to go. The Potter cottage came into view, half the roof blown away, dark magic still crackling in the air. Sirius abandoned the bike mid-air, letting it crash into the garden as he sprinted through the blasted open door. The sight of James's body at the foot of the stairs knocked the breath from his lungs. James! His voice broke as he fell to his knees beside his best friend. Dead eyes stared at the ceiling, wand still clutched in his hand. Sirius touched his face, still warm. A baby's wail from upstairs snapped him back. Harry was alive. Taking the stairs 3 at a time, Sirius burst into the nursery and froze. Lily was sprawled on the floor before Harry's crib, her red hair fanned out like blood. And in the crib, standing and crying, was his godson, alive with nothing but a lightning-shaped cut on his forehead. Harry, Sirius whispered, lifting the boy into his arms. I've got you. I've got you now. The sound of footsteps made him whirl, wand raised. Black. Snape stood in the doorway, his face ghost white as he stared at Lily's body. You! Sirius snarled, clutching Harry tighter. Did you know? Did you know he'd come for them? Snape didn't answer. He simply fell to his knees beside Lily, touching her hand with trembling fingers. Another set of heavy footsteps thundered up the stairs. Hagrid appeared, his massive frame filling the doorway. Sirius! Thank Merlin! Dumbledore sent me, Dumbledore knew! Sirius cut him off, rage and grief making his voice shake. He knew they were betrayed. Where's Peter? Where's that rat? Dumbledore wants me to take Harry to his aunt and uncle's, Hagrid said, reaching for the child. Sirius stepped back, keeping Harry against his chest. No. I'm his godfather. James and Lily made me his guardian if anything happened. But Dumbledore said, I don't care what Dumbledore said. Sirius's voice rose, making Harry whimper. He immediately softened his tone, bouncing the boy gently. I'm sorry, Harry. It's okay. Snape finally spoke, his voice hollow. The Dark Lord, he's gone. But not dead. What do you mean? Sirius demanded. This magic. Snape gestured around the destroyed room. Something went wrong when he tried to kill the boy. But he'll be back. Sirius made a split-second decision. Hagrid, tell Dumbledore I'm taking Harry. As is my right. Tell him to meet me at the Ministry. We need to find Peter before he disappears. But Sirius, Lily's sister hates magic. Sirius snapped. You know that, Snape. Tell him, or are you still loyal to your master? Snape's dark eyes flashed. The Dark Lord killed the only person I ever... He stopped, jaw clenching. He will return. The boy will never be safe. Then I'll make him safe, Sirius said, already heading for the door with Harry clutched to his chest. Starting with finding that traitor. 2 hours later, Peter Pettigrew was in Ministry custody, captured in a coordinated effort between Sirius, Mad-Eye Moody, and a team of Aurors who cornered him trying to flee the country. The rat never even got to stage his dramatic street explosion. The Veritaserum confirms everything. Amelia Bones told Sirius, who sat in her office with Harry asleep in his arms. Pettigrew was the secret keeper. He's been passing information to you-know-who for over a year. Albus Dumbledore stood by the window, his usual twinkle absent from his blue eyes. Sirius, I must insist Harry be placed with his maternal aunt. The blood protection is worth nothing if they mistreat him. Sirius cut in. Lily told me stories about her sister, Albus. And I'm his legal guardian. The Potter's will is crystal clear. The protection his mother's sacrifice created can be reinforced with other wards, said a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see a haggard-looking young man leaning against the doorframe. His aristocratic features were identical to Sirius's, though his face was gaunt, with dark shadows under his eyes. Regulus? Sirius breathed, disbelieving. You're alive? Regulus Black straightened with visible effort. Barely. We need to talk, brother. Privately. It's about the Dark Lord. Mr. Black? Dumbledore said sharply. You were reported dead nearly 2 years ago. That was the plan. Regulus replied, not taking his eyes off his brother. Turns out faking your death is the only way to leave the Death Eaters. Sirius, please. This concerns the boy too. Sirius stood, shifting Harry carefully in his arms. Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of the Chief Warlock. Regulus's jaw tightened. Fine. The Dark Lord made Horcruxes. At least one. That's why he didn't die tonight. The color drained from Dumbledore's face. You're certain? I stole one. Regulus said flatly. Nearly died in the process. Been in hiding ever since, tracking down others. The information died with the Dark Lord tonight, but not his soul fragments. Sirius looked between them. Someone want to tell me what a Horcrux is? Soul magic, Dumbledore said quietly. The darkest kind. It's how Voldemort anchored himself to this world. And the boy, Regulus said, nodding toward Harry, has a connection to them. I can sense it. Sirius instinctively pulled Harry closer. What are you saying? I'm saying. Regulus stepped fully into the room. That the most powerful dark wizard in a century is going to be hunting your godson when he returns. And he will return. Blood wards won't be enough. What do you suggest? Dumbledore asked, studying Regulus carefully. The ancient and most noble house of Black has protections even you don't know about, Headmaster, Regulus said. Our family library contains books on soul magic that haven't seen daylight in centuries. If you want the boy to survive to adulthood, he needs more than love and Gryffindor courage. He needs knowledge, protection, training. Sirius stared at his brother. The last time they'd spoken had been a screaming match before Regulus took the dark mark. Yet here he was, apparently having defied Voldemort and lived to tell about it. You want to help protect Harry? Sirius asked skeptically. Regulus met his gaze steadily. I want to destroy the Dark Lord for good. The boy is key to that. And his voice softened almost imperceptibly. He's our cousin, several times removed. Family. Dumbledore cleared his throat. I fear Mr. Black may be correct about the connection between Harry and Voldemort, Sirius. It would explain the scar. Sirius looked down at Harry's sleeping face, at the lightning bolt cut still raw on his forehead. Then we do this my way, he said firmly. I'm his guardian. He lives with me. But, he looked at his brother. We might need the Black family resources. Grimmauld Place is empty, Regulus said. Mother died last month. Left everything to me, thinking you were disinherited and I was dead. The house is unplottable, with centuries of protections. That miserable place? Sirius grimaced. It can be cleaned up. Regulus shrugged. The library alone is worth it. Dumbledore stepped forward. I must strongly advise against, with all due respect, Headmaster. Sirius cut him off. Your advice led to my best friends being murdered tonight. I'll be making decisions for Harry from now on. Amelia Bones, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. The law is clear, Albus. Black is the boy's guardian. Unless you have evidence he's unfit. The old wizard sighed. No. Sirius has always been loyal to the Potters. He turned to the Black brothers. But I hope you'll allow me to place additional protections around whatever home you choose. And perhaps consult on young Harry's education. We'll consider it, Sirius said, not committing to anything. He turned to his brother. We've got a lot to talk about. Regulus nodded. More than you know. 3 days later, Sirius stood in the kitchen of Grimmauld Place, watching his brother attempt to calm a screaming portrait. Blood traitor. Disgrace to the name of Black. How dare you bring a half-blood into this house, Mother? Regulus shouted, finally silencing the portrait of Walburga Black. The Potter boy is the one who vanquished the Dark Lord. The same Dark Lord who led me to my near death. Your precious pure-blood cause is in shambles. The portrait huffed indignantly but fell silent, glaring at Sirius, who stood holding Harry. She's charming as ever, Sirius muttered. The portrait stays, Regulus said firmly. Family history unpleasant as it is. We'll see about that, Sirius replied, bouncing Harry, who was wide-eyed at all the commotion. Maybe a permanent sticking charm meets its match in a can of Muggle spray paint. The sound of the doorbell made them both tense. Wands drawn, they approached the entrance hall. Regulus checked the enchanted peephole. It's Augusta Longbottom, he said with surprise. And, is that her grandson? Sirius frowned. Frank and Alice's boy? Why would she bring him here? Regulus carefully opened the door to reveal a severe-looking elderly witch in a vulture-topped hat, clutching the hand of a round-faced toddler about Harry's age. Mr. Black? She said stiffly. Both of you, I see. May we come in? This is rather urgent. They led her to the drawing-room, where she refused tea and came straight to the point. Frank and Alice were attacked last night, she said, her voice tight with controlled emotion. Bellatrix Lestrange, her husband, his brother, and Barty Crouch Jr. they used the Cruciatus. Repeatedly. Sirius felt sick. Are they alive, but their minds are gone? Augusta said bluntly, her grip on little Neville's shoulder tightening. The healers say it's permanent. My son and daughter-in-law will spend the rest of their lives in St. Mungo's, unable to recognize their own child. Harry, sensing the tension, began to fuss. Neville watched him with solemn eyes too old for his face. I'm so sorry, Sirius said, meaning it. Frank and Alice were excellent Aurors. Good people. Augusta nodded once. The reason I've come is information. Bellatrix was raving about the other boy before they were captured. The Aurors think they were looking for information about you-know-whose whereabouts, but also about the prophecy child. Regulus leaned forward. Prophecy? Augusta's sharp eyes assessed him. Don't play dumb, young man. Your former master was hunting 2 boys born at the end of July. Potter's son and mine. He chose Potter, but my sources tell me the prophecy could have meant either child. Sirius and Regulus exchanged looks. This was new information. What exactly do you want from us, Madame Longbottom? Sirius asked carefully. Protection, she said simply. I'm an old woman. I can raise Neville, but I can't protect him from Death Eaters seeking revenge or trying to prevent a prophecy. The Longbottom estate's wards are strong, but not unbreakable. Regulus frowned. You want to what? Move in here? Certainly not. She sniffed. But an alliance between our houses would benefit both boys. Shared tutors. Coordinated security. Information exchange. She paused. The Blacks know things about the dark arts that my family never touched. Knowledge that might keep both boys alive. Sirius looked at little Neville, who was now staring at a sleeping Harry with open curiosity. 2 boys, both orphaned in their own ways by Voldemort. I think we can arrange something, he said slowly. Regular visits. Shared education when they're older, Augusta nodded briskly. Good. I'll have my solicitor draw up the necessary paperwork for a formal alliance between our houses. As they worked out the details, either noticed Neville cautiously approaching Harry. The quiet boy gently touched Harry's hand. Harry's eyes opened, and he gave Neville a toothless grin. Neville smiled back, his first since his parents had been taken from him. The next 2 years established a routine. Sirius and Regulus transformed Grimmauld Place into a livable, if still gloomy, home. Creature, the ancient house elf, was initially hostile until Regulus explained his defection from Voldemort's service. After that, the elf became fanatically devoted to both Regulus and, surprisingly, to Harry, whom he called the brave little master who hurt the Dark Lord. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Augusta would bring Neville for what she called appropriate socialization. The boys quickly became inseparable, though their personalities were forming differently. Harry was bold and curious, constantly getting into things, while Neville was quieter, observant, but with occasional flashes of surprising determination. Dumbledore visited monthly, ostensibly to check on Harry's well-being, but Regulus suspected he was more interested in what they knew about Horcruxes. The brothers shared some information, but kept their own research private, particularly after discovering troubling connections between Harry's scar and soul magic. "He's not being fully honest with us," Regulus said one night, after Dumbledore had left. "He knows more about the prophecy than he's telling." Sirius nodded, watching Harry zooming around the living room on a toy broomstick. "I've noticed. But we need his resources too." It was a fragile balance, working with Dumbledore while maintaining their independence. The brothers had their own network now, including unexpected allies like Andromeda Tonks, their cousin who had been disowned for marrying a Muggleborn. Her daughter, Nymphadora, was a metamorphmagus in her first year at Hogwarts, and she delighted Harry with her color-changing hair during visits. Then came the day that changed everything again. A cool March morning in 1984 brought an urgent owl from the Ministry, requesting Sirius's presence for a confidential matter. He returned hours later, his face grim. "There's been another attack," he told Regulus, making sure Harry was occupied with Creature in another room. "Death Eaters hit a Muggle neighborhood in Oxford. Targeted a specific family, the Grangers." Regulus frowned. "Grangers? I don't recognize the name." "They're Muggles. Dentists. But their daughter." Sirius ran a hand through his hair. "Their 4-year-old daughter has been showing signs of extraordinary accidental magic. Someone at the Ministry's underage magic office leaked the information." "What happened?" "Parents tortured for information. The mother will recover physically, but she's broken mentally. Father killed trying to protect them. The girl was hidden in a charmed crawlspace the mother managed to create before they broke in." Sirius's voice was hollow. "She saw everything through the cracks. Hasn't spoken a word since they found her." Regulus was quiet for a long moment. "Extraordinary magic, you said? What kind?" "Controlled wandless levitation at age 3. Instinctive shield charms. The kind of stuff that has the Department of Mysteries interested. And the Death Eaters too, apparently," Regulus mused. "What happens to the girl now?" "That's why they called me in. As a member of the Wiesengemot through the Black Seat, I have a say in unusual custody cases." Sirius met his brother's eyes. "They want to obliviate her and place her with Muggle relatives in Australia. Erase her memory of magic? When she's clearly powerful? They think it's safer. Let her grow up Muggle until Hogwarts age." Regulus scoffed. "And waste years of potential training? With magic that strong, she'll never fit in with Muggles anyway. She'll keep having accidental magical outbursts." Sirius gave his brother a long look. "I told them I'd take her." "You what?" "I told them the House of Black would take custody of Hermione Granger. Educational guardianship, with option for full adoption if no suitable magical relatives are found." Sirius held up a hand before Regulus could interrupt. "She has no one, Reg. Her mother will be in long-term care. No magical relatives. And she's brilliant, by all accounts. Talking in full sentences before she was 2. You're proposing we raise another traumatized magical child. We've already got Harry with his connection to the Dark Lord, and Neville practically living here half the time. I'm proposing, Sirius said quietly, that we protect a Muggle-born girl who Death Eaters tried to eliminate because they fear her potential. Isn't that exactly the opposite of everything our family stood for? Isn't that the point of what we're doing here? Regulus was silent for a long moment. Finally, he sighed. Mother's portrait is going to have an absolute fit. Sirius grinned. That's just a bonus. The day they brought Hermione home was tense. The small girl with bushy brown hair didn't speak, didn't cry, just watched everything with huge, haunted brown eyes. Harry, now nearly 4, immediately tried to show her his toy broom, but she flinched away from the flying object. Give her time, Harry, Sirius said gently. Hermione's been through something scary. She's sad? Harry asked, his green eyes serious behind his tiny glasses. Yes, very sad. Her mom and dad got hurt. Harry considered this, then solemnly offered Hermione his stuffed black dog. Patty helps when I'm sad. Hermione didn't take it, but she did look at it with the first flicker of interest they'd seen. Progress of a sort. Regulus had prepared a room for her, with shelves of children's books both magical and Muggle. The mind healer said familiar Muggle objects might help her adjust. He explained when Sirius raised an eyebrow at the electric lamp adapted to work without electricity. It took 2 weeks before Hermione spoke. Regulus found her in the library, standing on tiptoes trying to reach a book on a high shelf. Without thinking, he flicked his wand to float it down to her. Thank you, she whispered, so quietly he almost missed it. You're welcome, Miss Granger, he replied, careful to keep his voice neutral. Do you like books? She nodded, clutching the volume, A Basic Introduction to Magical Theory, to her chest. Can you read that already? He asked, surprised. It was meant for much older children. Some words are hard, she admitted. But I like learning. After that, the dam broke. Hermione still had nightmares and occasional panic attacks, but she began to speak more, especially about books. She followed Regulus around like a shadow, asking endless questions about magic. Her accidental magic, which had been erratic and sometimes explosive in those first weeks, began to stabilize as she learned basic meditation techniques. When Neville visited, she was shy at first, but his gentle nature soon won her over. The 3 children began to form a unit, Harry the leader, always first to try new things, Neville the steady one, cautious but reliable, and Hermione the thinker, analyzing everything with precocious intensity. We've created a monster, Sirius joked one evening, watching Hermione earnestly explaining to the boys why the toy blocks would stack better if they used a triangular base. She's 4 going on 40. Regulus nodded, but his expression was thoughtful. She's channeling her trauma into learning. It's her way of controlling a world that hurt her. Speaking from experience? Sirius asked quietly. Regulus's eyes flicked to his left forearm, where the faded dark mark was hidden under his sleeve. Perhaps. By the time the children were 6, their education had begun in earnest. Augusta Longbottom had insisted on a proper pure-blood upbringing, which meant etiquette lessons, basic magical theory, and wizarding history. Sirius countered with Muggle primary education, reading, mathematics, and science. Regulus focused on languages, starting with Latin as the basis for spellcasting, and rudimentary occlumency to help control their emotions and, in Harry's case, the strange connection through his scar. Is this normal? Hermione asked one day during their lessons. For magical children to learn all this before Hogwarts? Not exactly, Regulus admitted. Most magical children have a more relaxed childhood. Then why are we different? She pressed, always quick to spot inconsistencies. The brothers exchanged looks. They'd agreed to be honest with the children about their unusual situation, within reason. Because you 3 are special, Sirius said. And there are people who might try to hurt you because of it. Because of our parents? Neville asked quietly. Partly, Regulus said. But also because of who you might become. Powerful witches and wizards. Like Voldemort? Harry asked. They'd never hidden the dark wizard's name from him. No, Sirius said firmly. Not like him. You'll be powerful in different ways. Better ways. But we need to understand both sides, Regulus added. Light and dark. That's why your education is different. The children nodded solemnly. At 6, they already understood they weren't like other children, Harry with his famous scar, Neville with his parents in St. Mungo's, Hermione with her nightmares and extraordinary magical sensitivity. Will we ever be normal? Neville asked softly. Sirius ruffled his hair. Normal is overrated, kid. You three are going to be exceptional. The first real test of their unusual education came a year later, when the children were 7. The brothers had taken them to Diagon Alley for the summer festival, a rare public outing carefully planned with disillusionments and notice-me-not charms to avoid too much attention to Harry's famous scar. They were browsing flourish and blots when Regulus tensed, his hand moving subtly to his wand. Sirius, he murmured. By the door. Raoul and Travers. Sirius casually shifted, positioning himself between the children and the entrance where 2 men had entered, former Death Eaters who had avoided Azkaban by claiming Imperius. Kids, Sirius said quietly, remember our exit drill? The 3 children immediately moved closer together, Harry in the middle, Neville and Hermione flanking him. They'd practiced this dozens of times. Black. Thorfinn Raoul's booming voice carried across the store. Didn't expect to see you in public these days. Heard you've been playing nanny. Other shoppers edged away, sensing trouble. Regulus moved to stand beside his brother, both of them now blocking the children from view. Raoul. Travers. Sirius nodded coolly. Just doing some shopping. If you'll excuse us. But we've heard so much about your little collection, Travers said silkily, stepping to the side to peer around them. The boy who lived, the Longbottom boy, and, what was it? Some mudblood girl you picked up? Sirius's one hand twitched, but he kept his voice level. I suggest you watch your language in front of children. Or what, blood traitor? Raoul sneered. What happened next was so fast the other shoppers barely registered it. Regulus flicked his wand in a pattern too subtle to follow, and both Death Eaters suddenly found themselves unable to move their arms. Simultaneously, Sirius cast a silent shield around the children. You seem to be confused about something, Regulus said, his voice soft but carrying. We're not some vigilante group you can intimidate. We're the House of Black. Perhaps you've forgotten what that means. The temperature in the bookshop seemed to drop. The Black family magic was ancient and powerful, and both brothers were now drawing on it. These children are under our protection, Sirius continued, his usual casual demeanor replaced with the cold authority of a pure-blood heir. Insult them again, threaten them by word or deed, and you won't just face us. You'll face every curse, hex, and dark artifact our family has collected over 9 centuries. The bindings on the Death Eaters released, but they didn't move, suddenly aware they'd miscalculated badly. The Blacks had been practicing dark magic since before Hogwarts was founded. Even the Dark Lord had been cautious around old Orion Black. Just a friendly chat, Travers said, trying to save face. No offense meant. Of course, Regulus smiled thinly. And none taken. This time. When the Death Eaters had left, Sirius turned to check on the children. To his surprise, none of them seemed frightened. Instead, Harry looked determined, Neville resolute, and Hermione, calculating. You didn't curse them, Hermione observed. Even though they deserved it. No, Regulus agreed. Sometimes the threat of power is more effective than its use. But you could have, Harry said, not a question. Sirius nodded. We could have. But that would make us like them. What's the point of learning all this magic if we don't use it? Harry asked, frustrated. You use it when you must, Regulus explained. Not when you can. That's the difference between defense and darkness. The children were quiet on the way home, processing this real-world application of their lessons. That night, Sirius found Harry sitting on the window seat in his bedroom, looking out at the stars. "You okay, kiddo?" Harry nodded. "I was just thinking. Those men, they wanted to hurt us because of who we are. Some people fear what they don't understand," Sirius said, sitting beside him. "But we didn't do anything to them." "I know. It's not fair." Harry was quiet for a moment. "They called Hermione a bad word. About her parents being muggles." "They did," Sirius agreed, not sugarcoating it. "Some wizards think that matters. But it doesn't, right? Hermione's the smartest person I know. And her magic is really strong." Sirius smiled. "Exactly. That's what scares them." Harry frowned, thinking this through. "So we have to be better. Stronger. Not just to protect ourselves, but to change things." "That's the idea, kiddo." Harry nodded decisively. "Then I want to learn more. Everything you and Uncle Reg can teach me." Sirius studied his godson's face, seeing James's determination and Lily's compassion. "We will. But remember what Regulus said. Power isn't for using whenever you want. It's a responsibility." "I know," Harry said solemnly. "That's why the three of us practice together. We're stronger that way." By their 10th birthday, they celebrated all three together in July for simplicity. The children had developed into a formidable team. Their education had expanded to include basic potions with Andromeda, who had been a gifted brewer before focusing on healing, defensive spells with Mad-Eye Moody, who had reluctantly agreed to tutor them after much persuasion from Sirius, and even occasional lessons in herbology from Augusta, who maintained prestigious greenhouses at Longbottom Manor. "Their control is remarkable," Moody grudgingly admitted after watching the three children successfully cast synchronized shield charms. "Never seen kids this young with this level of focus." Sirius nodded proudly. "They'd push each other. Harry's the strongest raw talent, but Hermione's precision makes him work on technique, and Neville's endurance challenges both of them." "Still don't like it," Moody growled. "Children shouldn't need to learn battle magic." "And yet here we are," Regulus said quietly. "Because the alternative is worse." The children themselves had developed their own dynamic. Harry was unquestionably their leader, but he deferred to Hermione on research and strategy, and to Neville on anything requiring patience or careful power modulation. They were rarely apart, splitting their time between Grimmauld Place and Longbottom Manor, with occasional visits to Andromeda's home for normal wizard child experiences like Quidditch games and wizard wireless programs. But always underlying their childhood was the preparation. The knowledge that someday Voldemort would return. "I don't understand why we can't just destroy it," Sirius said, glaring at the locket Horcrux they kept locked in a specially warded box. "We know the basilisk venom would work. Because we don't know how many he made," Regulus replied patiently. "We need to understand the connections between them before we start destroying them. Especially with Harry's scar reacting to it. They'd discovered years ago that Harry's scar would throb painfully whenever he came too close to the locket. It was this connection that had led them to their terrible suspicion that Harry himself might contain a fragment of Voldemort's soul. "We can't wait forever," Sirius argued. "The kids go to Hogwarts next year. If Harry's carrying a piece of that monster inside him..." "I'm working on it," Regulus said, frustration evident in his voice. "The ritual might work, but it's dangerous. Soul magic always exacts a price." "What price are you talking about?" came a small voice from the doorway. They turned to find Hermione watching them, her arms folded across her chest. At almost 11, she'd grown into a serious young girl with fierce intelligence and protective instincts toward her foster brothers. "Hermione," Sirius sighed. "This is private." "It's about Harry's scar, isn't it?" she pressed. "The Horcrux connection." The brothers exchanged alarmed looks. "How do you know about that?" Regulus demanded. Hermione rolled her eyes. "I can read, you know. And you didn't lock the Black family grimoire properly last month. Plus, Harry gets headaches whenever you two are working with that locket. It's not exactly difficult to piece together." Sirius ran a hand through his hair. Does Harry know what you suspect? No, she said firmly. I wouldn't scare him like that. But he deserves to know before Hogwarts. We all do. She's right, Regulus said quietly. They're old enough to understand the danger now. Sirius nodded reluctantly. We'll tell them together. Tomorrow. Hermione studied them both with eyes too old for her young face. You've found a way to remove it, haven't you? That's what the ritual is for. Theoretically, Regulus admitted. It's ancient blood magic. Dangerous. But you'd do it for Harry. She stated, not a question. In a heartbeat. Sirius confirmed. Hermione nodded, satisfied. Then we'll help. Me and Neville. Whatever you need. As she turned to leave, Sirius called after her. You know, you're terrifying sometimes, Hermione. She looked back with a small smile. Good. Someone in this family needs to be. The ritual took place on Samhain, when the boundary between life and death was thinnest. They performed it in the deepest chamber of Gringotts, where the goblins, for an exorbitant fee, provided absolute privacy and magical containment. Harry lay in a circle of runes, surprisingly calm for a boy about to undergo experimental soul magic. Neville and Hermione sat at 2 points of a triangle surrounding him, with Regulus at the third. Sirius stood outside the circle, ready to intervene if anything went wrong. You sure about this, pup? Sirius asked Harry one last time. It's going to hurt. Harry nodded, his green eyes determined. I'm sure. I want it gone. The ritual was ancient black family magic, modified by Regulus with elements from his research into Horcruxes. It required blood from those who loved Harry unconditionally, freely given, to draw out the foreign soul fragment. As Regulus began the complex incantation, the runes around Harry glowed blue. Hermione and Neville, following their carefully rehearsed parts, each made a small cut on their palms, letting 7 drops of blood fall onto specific runes. Blood of friendship, freely given, they recited together. To shield and protect. Regulus followed with his own blood. Blood of family, freely given. To claim and cleanse. The chamber filled with swirling magic, dark and light intertwined. Harry gasped as his scar split open, not bleeding red but oozing a black, tar-like substance. He screamed then, a horrible sound that made Sirius step forward instinctively, only to be held back by the ritual barriers. The black essence rose from Harry's scar, twisting in the air like a malevolent snake. It fought against the ritual's pull, trying to cling to Harry. Hermione and Neville, faces pale but determined, reached out to clasp each other's hands, completing the triangle around Harry. Their magic, still wild and uncontrolled by adult standards, poured into the ritual, strengthening it. With a final wrenching cry, the black essence tore free from Harry. Regulus immediately directed it toward a prepared vessel, an ordinary rock, unlike the precious objects Voldemort preferred. The moment the essence touched the stone, Regulus plunged a basilisk venom-coated dagger into it. The shriek that filled the chamber was inhuman. The black essence writhed, fighting for survival, before dissolving into nothing. Harry lay unconscious but breathing steadily, his scar already fading from angry red to a lighter, silvery mark. Neville and Hermione swayed where they sat, drained but triumphant. Regulus looked exhausted but satisfied. It worked, he said simply. Sirius rushed to Harry's side, gathering his godson into his arms. Harry? Can you hear me? Slowly, Harry's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, they all held their breath. Would he still be the same? Then Harry smiled, a pure, unclouded smile they'd never quite seen before. It's quiet, he whispered. My head is finally quiet. Recovery from the ritual took time, but by spring, all 3 children were back to full strength, and more. Harry's magic, no longer fighting the foreign presence, grew more controlled. His nightmares decreased, and his scar faded to a thin, barely noticeable line. The Hogwarts letters arrived on schedule, causing much excitement despite being expected. Diagon Alley was navigated with their usual caution, the children now skilled enough to maintain their own basic notice-me-not charms, with Sirius and Regulus providing more sophisticated protection. Ollivander's shop proved particularly interesting. The wand maker studied each child with his unsettling silver eyes. "I've been expecting you three," he said cryptically. "Most unusual combination. The boy who lived, the last Longbottom, and a Muggle-born witch of extraordinary potential. Raised by the Black brothers, no less." Hermione went first, testing nearly 20 wands before finding her match, Vinewood with a dragon heartstring core, 10 3/4 inches. "A perfectionist's wand," Ollivander noted. "Excellent for complex spell work." Neville found his match more quickly, cherry wood with unicorn hair, 13 inches. "Steadfast and loyal," the wand maker commented. "But don't underestimate its power in the right hands." Harry was last and most difficult. Wand after wand failed to respond until Ollivander brought out a holly and phoenix feather wand, 11 inches. The moment Harry touched it, the shop filled with red and gold sparks. Ollivander's face went very still. "Curious, most curious." "What's curious?" Harry asked. "I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. The phoenix who gave the feather in your wand gave only one other. Its brother went to the wizard who gave you that scar." Sirius stepped forward protectively. "You're saying Harry's wand is connected to Voldemort's? The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Black. I believe we can expect great things from Mr. Potter. After all, he who must not be named did great things, terrible, yes, but great." The shop fell silent. Then Hermione huffed impatiently. "Well, that's rather overdramatic, isn't it? Wands are just tools. It's the wizard that matters." Ollivander blinked, then let out a surprised laugh. "Quite right, Miss Granger. Quite right indeed." As they left the shop, Regulus fell into step beside Harry. "Don't let it bother you. Wand lore is complex, but Hermione's right, it's just a tool. Your intentions matter more than any connection to the Dark Lord." Harry nodded, twirling his new wand thoughtfully. "I know. Besides, we've already dealt with the worst connection I had to him." He touched his faded scar. "This is just wood and feather." Sirius ruffled his hair proudly. "That's my boy. Now who wants ice cream before we pick up your books?" The night before they left for Hogwarts, Sirius found the three children in the Grimmauld Place library, surrounded by books and parchment. "Studying already?" he teased. "Term hasn't even started." "Planning," Hermione corrected, not looking up from her meticulous notes. "We're making contingency plans." "For what, exactly?" Sirius asked, amused. "Everything," Neville said seriously. "House sorting. Classes. Building alliances. Dealing with people who'll want to get close to Harry because he's famous," Hermione added. "Handling Professor Snape, who'll probably hate me because of my dad," Harry continued. "Finding the Chamber of Secrets," Neville said. "Locating the other Horcruxes," Hermione finished. Sirius stared at them. "Hold on. The Chamber of Secrets? More Horcruxes? What exactly do you three think you're going to be doing at Hogwarts?" The children exchanged looks before Harry answered. "Learning. Making friends. But also, continuing what we've started here. We know Voldemort isn't gone for good. We know there's more to do. You're 11, Sirius said firmly. Your job is to be students. Let the adults handle the Horcrux hunting. But we can help, Hermione insisted. We've been trained for this. You've been trained to protect yourselves, Regulus corrected, entering the room. Not to go looking for trouble. But trouble always finds us anyway, Harry pointed out reasonably. Shouldn't we be prepared? Sirius and Regulus exchanged resigned looks. These were not normal children, they never had been. Years of specialized education, the ritual that removed Harry's Horcrux, and the constant awareness of lurking danger had shaped them into something unique. Just promise me you'll try to have some fun, Sirius said finally. Make friends. Play Quidditch. Pull some pranks. Be kids. We promise. The three chorused, with identical innocent expressions that fooled neither adult for a second. Later, as the brothers shared a fire whiskey in the study, Regulus voiced what they were both thinking. Hogwarts isn't ready for them, is it? Sirius laughed. Not even slightly. Poor Dumbledore won't know what hit him. You realize they're going to run that school within a month. Regulus mused. Harry's got James's charisma, Lily's moral compass, and our tactical training. Hermione's got more raw intelligence than most of the faculty. And Neville. Neville's got the heart of a lion hiding behind that quiet exterior. Sirius finished. Thanks to you, by the way. You were good with him when he lacked confidence. Regulus shrugged uncomfortably at the praise. I recognized something in him. The weight of family expectations. The fear of not measuring up. They fell silent, contemplating the journey that had brought them here, from bitter enemies to reluctant allies to partners in raising 3 extraordinary children. We did all right, didn't we? Sirius asked suddenly. With them, I mean. Regulus considered the question. Better than our parents did with us, at least. Low bar, brother. True. Regulus raised his glass. To Harry, Hermione, and Neville. May they have the childhood we never did, despite everything. And may Hogwarts survive them. Sirius added with a grin. As their glasses clinked, upstairs the 3 children continued their planning, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them, together. Chapter 2, Secrets of Hogwarts. Platform 9 3/4 buzzed with the chaos of tearful goodbyes and excited reunions. Harry, Hermione, and Neville stuck close together, pushing their trolleys in formation as Sirius and Regulus flanked them, eyes constantly scanning the crowd. Relax, Sirius murmured to his brother. You look like you're expecting a Death Eater ambush. Force of habit, Regulus replied, not relaxing at all. We're delivering the 3 most valuable magical children in Britain to a school with notoriously weak security. Harry snorted. We'll be fine, Uncle Reg. We've been training for this our whole lives. Just remember what we discussed, Regulus said quietly. Trust carefully. Watch Quirrell, keep our clemency shields up, and send word immediately if my scar hurts. Harry finished. We know. Hermione was practically vibrating with excitement. Do you think the Hogwarts library really has 30,000 books? The newest edition of Hogwarts, a history suggests. You'll find out soon enough. Sirius laughed, helping load their trunks onto the train. He pulled Harry into a quick hug. Write to us tonight. Let us know where you all end up. Even if it's Slytherin? Harry asked with a half-smile. Sirius ruffled his hair. Especially if it's Slytherin. Though your mother might come back to haunt me. The whistle blew. Final hugs were exchanged, and the 3 children boarded the train. They found an empty compartment near the back, arranged themselves with practiced efficiency, Neville by the door, Harry opposite him, Hermione by the window where she could see the platform. As the train pulled away, Harry caught a last glimpse of Sirius and Regulus. The brothers stood side by side, an unlikely pair of guardians who'd changed everything. Here we go, he said quietly. Into the dragon's den, Neville agreed. Hermione rolled her eyes. It's a school, not a dragon's den. Though I suppose that depends on which house we end up in. Their compartment door slid open, revealing a gangly red-headed boy. Anyone sitting there? He pointed to the empty seat beside Neville. Everywhere else is full. The trio exchanged quick glances before Harry nodded. Go ahead. I'm Ron, by the way. Ron Weasley. He sat down, then did a double-take at Harry. Blimey, are you Harry Potter? Harry confirmed, having long ago learned that denying his identity just led to more awkward conversations. This is Neville Longbottom and Hermione Granger. Ron's eyes widened. You 3 know each other already? We grew up together. Neville explained simply. Ron looked confused. But I thought you lived with Muggles, Harry? Common misconception, Harry replied, the practiced response coming easily. I've lived with my godfather, Sirius Black, since my parents died. Ron's eyebrows shot up. Sirius Black? The one who caught Peter Pettigrew? Harry nodded, and Ron looked suitably impressed. The compartment door slid open again, this time revealing a pale, pointed-faced boy flanked by two larger boys. "They're saying Harry Potter's in this compartment," the boy said, eyes landing on Harry. "So it's you, is it?" "Depends who's asking," Harry replied coolly. The boy smirked. "Malfoy. Draco Malfoy." He glanced dismissively at the others. "Longbottom, I recognize. But you..." He looked at Hermione. "I don't know you." "Hermione Granger," she said simply, not offering more. Recognition flickered in Draco's eyes. "Ah, the Muggle-born the Blacks took in. My father told me about you." Tension crackled in the compartment. Neville shifted subtly, hand drifting toward his wand pocket. "And what exactly did Lucius have to say?" Harry asked, voice deceptively light. Draco seemed to realize he'd wandered into dangerous territory. The Black family might have blood traitors in its ranks, but it was still ancient and powerful, and technically, his mother's family. "Just that you three are unusual." Draco recovered smoothly. "Potter, you should know some wizarding families are better than others. I can help you there." He extended his hand. Harry didn't take it. "I think I can figure that out for myself, thanks." "Your choice." Draco shrugged, but his cheeks had flushed pink. "Just remember, we're cousins, in a way. My mother was a Black." "We know our family tree," Neville said quietly. Draco looked startled at Neville speaking up. "Right. Well, see you at Hogwarts then." After he left, Ron let out a low whistle. "That was intense. You three just faced down Malfoy like it was nothing." Hermione shrugged. "We've had practice with worse." Ron stared at them with newfound respect. "What house do you think you'll be in?" "My whole family's been Gryffindor." "We'll see what the Sorting Hat decides," Harry said noncommittally. The rest of the journey passed with Ron telling them about his large family, while the trio shared carefully edited versions of their upbringing. When they finally arrived at Hogsmeade Station, they followed Hagrid's booming voice to the boats. 4 to a boat," Hagrid called. Harry, Hermione, Neville, and Ron climbed into one together. As they rounded the bend, Hogwarts came into view, its windows blazing with light against the night sky. "Wow," Neville whispered. "It's incredible," Hermione agreed. Harry said nothing, but his grip on the side of the boat tightened. He'd heard stories about Hogwarts his whole life, from Sirius, from Regulus, from books. Now he was finally here, where his parents had studied, where his destiny had been set in motion before he was even born. The castle loomed closer, both welcoming and intimidating. Professor McGonagall led them into a small chamber off the entrance hall, explaining about the 4 houses. The trio stood together, calm amid the nervous first years. "How are you so relaxed?" Ron whispered. "No point being nervous about something you can't control," Harry replied. Ghosts streamed through the wall, startling several students, but Harry, Hermione, and Neville didn't flinch. They'd met the ghost of Sirius's Uncle Alfred years ago at Grimmauld Place. Finally, McGonagall returned and led them into the great hall. The ceiling showed a perfect reflection of the night sky outside, just as Hermione had described from Hogwarts, a history countless times. The Sorting Hat sat on a stool at the front, old and patched. The hat sang its song about the 4 houses, and then the sorting began. When Granger Hermione was called, she gave Harry and Neville quick, reassuring nods before walking confidently to the stool. The hat took nearly 3 minutes with her, a hat stall, whispers in the hall suggested. Finally it shouted, "Ravenclaw!" The blue and bronze table erupted in applause. Hermione caught Harry's eye as she went to join her new house, giving him a subtle thumbs up. Neville was next among their trio. The hat took less time with him, barely a minute before declaring, "Gryffindor!" Neville looked momentarily surprised before a pleased smile spread across his face. He hurried to join the cheering Gryffindor table. More names were called, including Draco Malfoy, who was immediately sorted into Slytherin. Finally, McGonagall called, "Potter, Harry!" The hall erupted in whispers as Harry walked forward. He could feel hundreds of eyes on him as he sat on the stool and the hat dropped over his eyes. Difficult, very difficult, said a small voice in his ear. Plenty of courage, I see. A sharp mind, too. There's talent, oh my goodness, yes, and a thirst to prove yourself. But where to put you? Wherever I can do the most good, Harry thought. Most good? Interesting, not where you can achieve the most, but where you can do the most good. You've been well raised, despite everything. There's ambition here that would suit Slytherin, intelligence for Ravenclaw, loyalty for Hufflepuff, and bravery for Gryffindor. I've been taught that all those qualities matter, Harry thought. Indeed they do. But for you, better be Gryffindor. The Gryffindor table exploded with cheers, the Weasley twins chanting, "We got Potter! We got Potter!" Harry grinned, joining Neville at the table. He caught Hermione's eye across the hall and shrugged good-naturedly. She smiled back, pointing subtly to her temple, their signal for stick to the plan. After the sorting finished, Ron joined them in Gryffindor. Dumbledore stood for announcements, ending with a curious warning about the third-floor corridor being out of bounds to anyone who didn't want to die a very painful death. Harry and Neville exchanged looks. That would need investigating. During the feast, Harry found himself watching the staff table. Snape, the potions master Sirius had warned him about, was indeed glaring at him. But it was Professor Quirrell, the nervous-looking man in the purple turban, who really caught Harry's attention. When their eyes met briefly, Harry felt a strange twinge in his scar, nothing like the pain he'd experienced before the Horcrux removal ritual, but noticeable enough. He casually reached up to brush his fringe, their predetermined signal to Neville that something was wrong. Neville nodded imperceptibly, continuing his conversation with Ron as if nothing had happened. After the feast, they followed Percy Weasley up to Gryffindor Tower. Before entering the common room, Harry pulled Neville aside. "Quirrell," he whispered. "There's something off about him." My scar reacted. Neville's eyes widened. "But I thought the ritual, not like before. Just awareness. We need to tell Hermione. Tomorrow at breakfast. We'll figure out a way to talk." Harry nodded, and they followed the others through the portrait hole. Hermione was waiting for them in the entrance hall before breakfast, pretending to read a book when they came down the stairs. "Good morning," she said brightly, falling into step beside them. "Sleep well?" "Like a rock," Harry replied, their code for "We need to talk privately." "Library research after classes?" she suggested, meaning, meet in our predetermined spot. "Definitely," Neville agreed. "Herbology first today, right?" They separated at the Great Hall, heading to their respective house tables. Throughout the day, they focused on classes while observing their surroundings. By late afternoon, they managed to slip away to their chosen meeting spot, a seemingly unused classroom on the 4th floor they'd identified from the Marauders map Sirius had given them. Hermione cast a simple privacy charm, not perfect, but enough to warn them if anyone approached. "My scar tingled when I looked at Quirrell," Harry said without preamble. "Not painful, just aware." Hermione frowned. "That shouldn't happen after the ritual. Unless he's connected to Voldemort somehow," Neville finished. "We need to watch him," Harry decided. "And I need to write to Sirius and Regulus tonight." "What about the third-floor corridor?" Hermione asked. "Seemed a bit obvious, announcing it to the entire school. Almost like Dumbledore wants someone to investigate," Neville mused. "Or it's a test," Harry suggested. "Sirius always said Dumbledore operates on multiple levels." "Let's find out what's there, but carefully," Hermione said. "The map should help." They spent the next hour comparing notes on their houses, professors, and fellow students before separating again to avoid suspicion. That night, Harry wrote a careful letter to his guardians, using their prearranged code to indicate his concerns about Quirrell without explicitly stating them. He took it to the Ole himself, sending it with a school owl rather than his own snowy owl, Hedwig, who was too recognizable. Potions class proved exactly as challenging as they'd expected. Snape started with a roll call, pausing at Harry's name. "Ah, yes," he said softly. "Harry Potter. Our new celebrity." Draco Malfoy and his friends sniggered behind their hands. Harry met Snape's gaze steadily, maintaining his basic occlumency shields as Regulus had taught him. Snape launched into a speech about the subtle science of potion-making, then suddenly barked. "Potter! What would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?" Harry kept his expression neutral. "The draught of living death, sir. A sleeping potion so powerful it mimics death." Surprise flickered across Snape's face before his scowl returned. "Where would you look if I told you to find me a bezoar?" "The stomach of a goat, sir. It's a stone that will protect against most poisons." Snape's eyes narrowed. "What is the difference between monkshood and wolfsbane?" "They're the same plant, sir. Also known as aconite," Harry replied calmly. The classroom was silent. Snape stared at Harry for a long moment. "Correct," he finally said. "Though clearly someone has been coaching you. Fame isn't everything, Potter. Let's see if you can brew as well as you memorize." Harry paired with Neville for the simple potion to cure boils. They worked with practiced efficiency. Both had been brewing under Andromeda's supervision for years. When Snape swept past their cauldron, he found nothing to criticize, which seemed to irritate him further. After class, Draco approached them in the corridor. "Pretty impressive, Potter. Father said you'd been raised like a proper wizard despite your guardians." "The Blacks are as proper a wizarding family as they come," Harry replied evenly. "Just with different values than some." Draco hesitated. "Listen, I think we got off on the wrong foot. My mother actually asked me to extend an invitation. Since we're cousins, she thought perhaps you three might visit during Christmas break." Harry exchanged glances with Neville. This was unexpected. "Tell your mother we appreciate the invitation," Harry said diplomatically. "We'll discuss it with our guardians." Draco nodded, looking almost relieved. "Right. Well, see you around, Potter. Longbottom." As he walked away, Neville murmured, "What was that about?" "Politics," Harry guessed. "The Malfoys realizing we're not just three kids being raised by blood traders, but a political force they need to reckon with." "You think Narcissa is reaching out independently of Lucius?" "Possible. Regulus always said she was the smartest of his cousins." Harry shrugged. "Let's tell Hermione. She loves a good political puzzle." By Halloween, they had established a routine. They excelled in classes, Hermione top of everything in Ravenclaw, Harry and Neville near the top in Gryffindor. They maintained friendships in their separate houses while meeting regularly to exchange information and practice more advanced magic than the first-year curriculum offered. They'd also made their first visit to the third-floor corridor, using the Marauder's map to avoid detection. A locked door yielded to Hermione's Alohomora, revealing a massive three-headed dog standing over a trapdoor. "Cerberus," Hermione had whispered as they quickly retreated. "Guardian of the underworld in Greek mythology. Or guardian of whatever's through that trapdoor," Harry pointed out. Their suspicions about Quirrell grew stronger when they noticed him lingering near the forbidden corridor multiple times on the map. Harry's scar occasionally tingled in defense against the dark arts classes, especially when Quirrell turned his back to write on the blackboard. A reply from Sirius and Regulus confirmed their concerns. "Watch the stuttering star carefully. Old family friends suspect the turban hides more than baldness." The Halloween feast was underway when Professor Quirrell burst into the Great Hall, announcing a troll in the dungeons before fainting. As prefects led students back to dormitories, Harry grabbed Neville's arm. "Quirrell," he said. "This is too convenient." Neville nodded. "Distraction. The third floor?" "Probably." They slipped away from the Gryffindor group, ducking into an alcove to check the Marauder's map. Sure enough, Quirrell's dot was moving rapidly not toward the dungeons, but toward the third-floor corridor. "We need Hermione," Harry said. They found her easily enough on the map, already separated from the Ravenclaw group and heading in their direction. Years of training together had its benefits. She'd come to the same conclusion they had. They intercepted her near the second-floor girls' bathroom, Quirrell's heading for the third floor, Harry confirmed. I knew it, Hermione said. What's our play? Follow but don't engage, Harry decided. We need to know what he's after. And the troll? Neville asked. We alert a teacher if we see it, but it's probably just a diversion. They moved quickly through the deserted corridors, checking the map constantly. Quirrell had reached the forbidden corridor but was now standing still. He's not moving, Hermione observed. Maybe he can't get past the dog? They approached cautiously, hearing music from behind the door to the Cerberus's chamber. Peering through a crack, they saw Quirrell playing a flute, the three-headed dog snoring at his feet. As they watched, he opened the trapdoor and disappeared inside. Music soothes the savage beast, Neville murmured. Classic. Should we follow? Hermione asked. Harry hesitated. No. We don't know what's down there, and we're not prepared. But we need to know what he's after. Hermione argued. We'll tell McGonagall. Harry decided. Anonymous tip. Let the adults handle it. Neville nodded his agreement. And we'll watch him more closely from now on. They retreated, using the map to avoid both teachers and the troll, which was indeed rampaging through the dungeons. From a safe distance, Harry used a simple charm to create a loud noise near McGonagall's location, then left an anonymous note. Someone's going after whatever's hidden on the third floor. Right now. Back in their common rooms, they waited anxiously. The map showed McGonagall rushing to the third-floor corridor, followed by Snape and Dumbledore. Quirrell emerged from the trapdoor minutes later, confronted by the three professors. The next morning, Quirrell was at breakfast, looking nervous but otherwise normal. No announcements were made about the previous night's events. They're keeping it quiet, Hermione whispered when they met briefly before classes. He must have had an excuse prepared, Harry said. Checking on the protections or something. But now they'll be watching him, Neville pointed out. That's good. Maybe, Harry said, unconvinced. Or maybe they're all playing some bigger game we don't understand yet. November brought the first Quidditch match of the season, Gryffindor vs. Slytherin. Harry wasn't on the team. Unlike the other first years, he hadn't had to demonstrate his flying skills during Madame Hooch's class. Sirius had taught him to fly almost before he could walk. They watched from the stands as Gryffindor struggled against the more experienced Slytherin team. Halfway through the match, Harry noticed Quirrell sitting a few rows behind the Slytherin section, eyes fixed not on the game, but on something in the Forbidden Forest. Look at Quirrell, he murmured to Neville and Hermione, who had joined the Gryffindors for the match. Hermione frowned. What's he staring at? I don't know, but I don't like it, Harry said. Cover for me. Before they could stop him, Harry slipped away from the stands. Using the distraction of the match, he made his way to the edge of the forest, keeping Quirrell's line of sight in mind. A flash of movement caught his eye, something silvery blue between the trees. Harry drew his wand and edged closer, staying hidden. There, in a small clearing, lay a unicorn, dead, its silvery blood pooling around it. A cloaked figure hunched over it, drinking its blood. Harry's scar exploded with pain, not just a twinge this time, but searing agony that nearly brought him to his knees. The hooded figure raised its head, unicorn blood dripping from its mouth. Where a face should have been, there was only shadow. Training took over. Harry cast a shield charm, backing away slowly. The figure rose and glided toward him. The pain in Harry's scar intensified, but he maintained his shield, mind racing through options. Running would expose his back. Fighting was foolish against an unknown entity. The sound of hooves saved him. A centaur burst into the clearing, rearing up at the cloaked figure, which fled into the deeper forest. Harry Potter, the centaur said, lowering to all fours. You are not safe here. The forest is dangerous, especially for you. That thing, Harry managed, the pain in his scar receding. What was it? A monstrous creature, to slay something so pure as a unicorn. Drinking unicorn blood will keep you alive even if you are an inch from death, but at a terrible price. You live a half-life, Accursed life, from the moment the blood touches your lips. Voldemort, Harry whispered. The centaur, who introduced himself as Firenze, nodded gravely. Do you know what is hidden in the school at this very moment, Harry Potter? Something valuable. Something Voldemort wants. The Philosopher's Stone. Created by Nicholas Flamel, it transforms metal to gold and produces the elixir of life, which will make the drinker immortal. Harry's mind raced. Everything clicked into place: Quirrell's interest in the third floor, the unicorn killings, his Scar's reaction. Quirrell is helping him, Harry said. Voldemort is possessing him somehow. Firenze stamped a hoof. You are wiser than most your age. Now quickly, return to the school. Tell Dumbledore what you've seen. Back in their meeting room, Harry relayed everything to Neville and Hermione. The Philosopher's Stone? Hermione repeated. That's what's being hidden. Makes sense, Neville said grimly. Eternal life, unlimited gold, exactly what Voldemort would want. We need to tell Dumbledore. Hermione insisted. This isn't something we should handle alone. We will, Harry assured her. But we need to be smart about it. If we go running to Dumbledore saying Quirrell is possessed by Voldemort, we expose how much we know and how we've been investigating. So what's the play? Neville asked. Harry thought for a moment. We write to Sirius and Regulus first. Then we find a way to alert Dumbledore without revealing our hand. And we keep watching Quirrell. Christmas break is coming up, Hermione noted. We can strategize with Sirius and Regulus then. Speaking of Christmas, Neville said, what about the Malfoys' invitation? Harry and Hermione exchanged glances. I think we should go, Hermione said surprisingly. It's an opportunity to understand their position better. Sirius will have a fit, Harry pointed out. Maybe, Hermione conceded. But Regulus will understand the strategic value. Let's discuss it over break, Harry decided. For now, we focus on the stone. Christmas break came as a relief. The trio returned to Grimmauld Place, where they immediately briefed Sirius and Regulus on everything they'd discovered. The Philosopher's Stone, Regulus mused, pacing the library. Flamel must have given it to Dumbledore for safekeeping. Which means he knows Voldemort is trying to return. And he's using Quirrell as a host, Sirius added, looking troubled. Right under everyone's noses at Hogwarts. My Scar reacts to him, Harry explained. Not like before the ritual, but enough to notice. Regulus nodded thoughtfully. The ritual removed the Horcrux, but your magical core still recognizes Voldemort's signature. Like an immune response. What do we do? Hermione asked. Tell Dumbledore? Dumbledore already suspects, or he wouldn't have the stone there in the first place, Sirius said. He's using it as bait. With a school full of children? Neville looked appalled. That's Dumbledore, Regulus said grimly. Always playing chess while everyone else plays gobstones. So what's our move? Harry pressed. The brothers exchanged looks. You three stay out of it, Sirius said firmly. We'll handle this from our end. I'll speak to certain Order members, raise concerns about Quirrell without revealing how we know. And the Malfoys' invitation? Hermione asked. As predicted, Sirius scowled, while Regulus looked intrigued. It's a trap, Sirius declared. It's an opportunity, Regulus countered. Narcissa reaching out suggests division in their ranks. Lucius was inner circle with the Dark Lord, but Narcissa's priority has always been family, including the black side. You think she's hedging her bets? Sirius realized. In case Voldemort doesn't return, or if he does, in case he loses again. Exactly. And these three, Regulus gestured to the children, represent a powerful new faction. The boy who lived, the last Longbottom, and a Muggle-born witch of extraordinary talent, all raised with both traditional values and progressive politics. So we accept? Harry asked. We accept, Regulus confirmed, overriding Sirius's objection. But with conditions. Tea only, not a full visit. Neutral ground, perhaps Andromeda's house, to really make a statement. Sirius barked a laugh. Using Narcissa's disowned sister's house? That's deliciously petty. It sends a message. Regulus shrugged. We acknowledge the family connection, but on our terms. Plans were made, letters sent. The remainder of the break was split between advanced training, now focused on detection spells and advanced shields, and actual holiday celebrations, including a Christmas feast with the Tonks family and Augusta Longbottom. On their last night before returning to Hogwarts, Harry found Sirius alone in the drawing room, staring at the family tapestry. Everything okay? Harry asked, joining him. Sirius sighed. Just thinking about how strange life is. I hated this house, this family. Now here I am, raising 3 kids in it, working with my Death Eater brother, and negotiating with the Malfoys. Having second thoughts? No, Sirius said firmly. Never about you 3. I just wonder sometimes what your parents would think, Harry. If they'd approve of how we've raised you. Harry considered this. I think they'd understand. The world didn't turn out how they expected. You adapted. Sirius smiled sadly. You're too wise for 11, you know that? Blame Uncle Reg and his philosophy books. Harry grinned. Speaking of wisdom beyond your years. Sirius turned serious. Promise me something, Harry. When you go back to Hogwarts, don't go after the stone yourself. No matter what happens. I promised Hermione and Neville I wouldn't. Harry assured him. We'll keep watching Quirrell, but we'll leave the stone alone. Sirius nodded, relieved. Good. Because Regulus and I have a plan. January brought the promised tea with the Malfoys, at Andromeda's home, as Regulus had suggested. Narcissa arrived with Draco, but without Lucius, who had urgent business at the ministry. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife as Narcissa faced her estranged sister for the first time in decades. Andromeda, however, played the perfect hostess, serving tea with impeccable manners that reminded everyone of their shared upbringing. Cousin Sirius, Regulus. Narcissa greeted them formally. Thank you for accepting my invitation, though I admit I didn't expect these arrangements. Families should reunite on family ground. Regulus replied smoothly. Andromeda is the eldest black sister still at liberty. Narcissa's lips thinned at the reference to Bellatrix and Azkaban. Indeed. The children sat together somewhat awkwardly until Harry, remembering his etiquette lessons, asked Draco about his Christmas gifts, breaking the ice. Soon they were discussing Hogwarts classes while the adults engaged in carefully polite conversation laden with double meanings. I understand the children have been excelling at Hogwarts, Narcissa remarked. Draco mentions they're quite advanced for first years. They've had excellent tutoring, Sirius said. We believe in comprehensive education. Including traditional values, I hope? Narcissa glanced pointedly at Hermione. Including understanding that magic is about power and intent, not blood, Regulus replied. Something our family forgot over generations. Some might call such views progressive, Narcissa observed. Even dangerous. Only to those invested in maintaining a failing status quo. Andromeda spoke up. The future belongs to those who adapt. The conversation continued in this vein, political positions staked through seemingly innocent comments. By the time the Malfoys left, much had been communicated without being explicitly stated. Well? Sirius asked the children afterward. Draco's torn. Harry reported immediately. He's been raised with his father's beliefs, but he's smart enough to see they might not be sustainable. And Narcissa is definitely hedging her bets. Hermione added. She asked very specific questions about our education, subjects, approaches, even which family grimoires we've had access to. She's evaluating us as potential allies for Draco, depending on how things unfold. Neville concluded. Regulus nodded approvingly. Exactly. She's preparing for multiple futures, one where the Dark Lord returns and triumphs, one where he fails, and one where he doesn't return at all. And where do we stand with them now? Harry asked. Cautious neutral ground, Sirius said. They'll watch us, we'll watch them. No commitments either way. Perfect position for now. Regulus agreed. Back at Hogwarts, the trio maintained their vigilance over Quirrell while focusing on classes and building their network of allies. Harry and Neville had become friends with most of the Gryffindor first years, especially Ron Weasley, whose strategic mind they appreciated despite his occasional tactlessness. Hermione had found kindred spirits among the Ravenclaws, particularly Padma Patil and Anthony Goldstein, who didn't mind her occasional intensity. They even maintained civil relations with Draco, who had become noticeably less antagonistic after the Christmas tea. His friends Blaise Zabini and Theodore Nott were similarly reserved, creating a tentative cross-house dynamic unusual for first years. February passed without incident. Quirrell seemed to be biding his time, appearing progressively more gaunt and nervous as the term continued. Harry occasionally caught Dumbledore watching him with a calculating expression that suggested the headmaster was well aware of the trio's unusual abilities and interests. In late March, they received a cryptic letter from Regulus. Easter eggs hidden in old nests often spoil. Check carefully before collecting. The code was clear. They had discovered another Horcrux location. Do you think they'll destroy it over Easter break? Hermione whispered when they met to discuss the letter. Probably. Harry nodded. They've been researching destruction methods since I came back from Christmas. That's 2 down. Neville counted. The locket and whatever they found now. Plus the one from your scar. Hermione reminded him. 3 total. But we still don't know how many he made, Harry said grimly. Their discussion was interrupted by the appearance of a dot on the Marauder's map, Quirrell heading toward the 3rd-floor corridor again. Should we follow? Neville asked. Harry hesitated. No. We promised Sirius. But, he studied the map. We should know what happens. They watched as Quirrell's dot remained by the Cerberus for nearly an hour before retreating. No professors intercepted him this time. He's getting bolder, Hermione observed worriedly. Or more desperate. Dumbledore's letting this play out, Harry realized. He wants to see what Quirrell will do. Using the stone as bait. Neville nodded. Just like Sirius said. We need to be ready, Harry decided. Not to go after the stone ourselves, but to raise the alarm when Quirrell makes his move. Easter break came and went. The trio stayed at Hogwarts this time, using the quieter castle to explore and map potential escape routes and hiding places. They received confirmation that Regulus and Sirius had successfully located and destroyed a Horcrux, a ring hidden in the ruins of the Gaunt family home. They're not telling us everything, Harry said, reading between the lines of the carefully worded letter. The ring had some kind of curse on it. Regulus nearly got hurt. This is getting more dangerous, Hermione worried. How many more could there be? Regulus thinks he made 6 deliberately, Harry reminded her. That's 3 down, 3 to go. But we have no leads on the others, Neville pointed out. And meanwhile, Quirrell's getting closer to the stone. As if to confirm their concerns, that night the map showed Quirrell once again at the 3rd-floor corridor, this time spending nearly 2 hours beyond the trapdoor. He's working out how to get past all the protections, Hermione guessed. There must be more than just the Cerberus. He'll make his move soon, Harry predicted. When Dumbledore leaves the castle. As April turned to May, they noticed Hagrid acting strangely secretive. A visit to his hut revealed why. He had somehow acquired a dragon egg and was attempting to hatch it in his wooden house. Hagrid, you can't raise a dragon here, Hermione said reasonably. It's against the law, not to mention dangerous. He's just a baby. Hagrid cooed over the newly hatched Norwegian Ridgeback. I've named him Norbert. Where did you even get it? Harry asked. Dragon eggs are Class A non-tradable materials. Won him, Hagrid said proudly. Off a stranger down the pub. Seemed quite glad to be rid of it, come to think of it. The 3 exchanged alarmed glances. A stranger conveniently carrying a dragon egg, meeting the Hogwarts gamekeeper known for his love of dangerous creatures. Hagrid, Harry said carefully. What did you talk about with this stranger? Did he seem interested in what you do at Hogwarts? Well, sure, he asked what sort of creatures I look after. Told him after Fluffy, a dragon would be easy. Fluffy? Neville repeated. Yeah, the three-headed dog. Bought him off a Greek feller a few years back. Lent him to Dumbledore to guard the... Hagrid stopped abruptly. Shouldn't have said that. The Philosopher's Stone. Harry supplied quietly. We know, Hagrid. It's okay. Did you tell the stranger how to get past Fluffy? Hagrid looked horrified. I would never. Well, I mentioned music puts him right to sleep, but that's not, oh dear. They left Hagrid's hut with a promise to help find a solution for Norbert, and a sinking feeling that Quirrell had just obtained the final piece of information he needed. We need to tell McGonagall, Hermione insisted. She won't believe us without evidence. Harry pointed out. We'd have to admit we know about the stone, the Cerberus, everything. Then we tell Dumbledore. Neville suggested. But when they tried to see the headmaster that evening, McGonagall informed them he had been urgently called to the Ministry of Magic. He's gone? Harry asked, alarm bells ringing in his head. Right now? Yes, Potter. The headmaster is a very busy and important wizard with many demands on his time. McGonagall said sternly. Whatever you need can wait until tomorrow. As soon as they were alone, Harry pulled out the map. Sure enough, Quirrell was already on the move, heading for the 3rd floor. It's happening, Harry said grimly. Tonight. We need to stop him, Neville said. No. Hermione shook her head. We promise Sirius. We alert the teachers. And if they don't believe us? Harry challenged. If Quirrell gets the stone and brings Voldemort back? They stared at each other, years of training and preparation colliding with their promise to stay out of danger. Compromise, Neville suggested finally. We alert McGonagall again, with specifics this time. If she doesn't act, we send an emergency signal to Sirius and Regulus. Only if all that fails do we intervene directly. Harry nodded reluctantly. Agreed. They hurried to McGonagall's office, telling her directly that someone was going to steal the Philosopher's Stone tonight. Her dismissal was swift and firm. I don't know how you found out about the stone, but I assure you it is perfectly well protected. Now return to your dormitories immediately. Back in their meeting room, Harry activated the emergency communication mirror Sirius had given him. No response. The adult blacks were apparently unreachable, likely dealing with Horcrux matters. Now what? Hermione asked, chewing her lip anxiously. Harry checked the map again. Quirrell had disappeared from it entirely, meaning he was already past the trapdoor. We have no choice, Harry said quietly. We have to go after him. You promised Sirius, Hermione reminded him. I know. But I also promised my parents I'd stop Voldemort if I could. Harry's expression was determined. We've trained for this our whole lives. If we can't stop Quirrell from getting the stone, at least we can delay him until Dumbledore returns. Neville nodded solemnly. I'm with you. Hermione sighed. We'll need a plan. 20 minutes later, they stood outside the forbidden corridor, prepared as best they could be. They'd changed into practical clothes, brought their emergency potions kit, and reviewed every spell they might need. The door to Fluffy's chamber was already ajar, a harp playing softly inside. The massive dog was fast asleep, a paw resting partly over the open trapdoor. He's already gone through, Harry whispered. No light below, Neville observed, peering down. We'll have to risk it. Harry went first, dropping through the darkness to land on something soft and yielding. Neville and Hermione followed quickly. What is this? Hermione whispered, feeling the plant-like surface beneath them. Devil's snare, Neville identified immediately. Don't move! Too late. The plant began wrapping tendrils around them, tightening with every struggle. Relax, Neville instructed calmly. It will let you through if you don't fight it. Harry and Hermione forced themselves to go limp. Gradually, the plant loosened its grip, allowing them to slip through to a stone floor below. Neville followed moments later. Good thing one of us knows herbology, Harry said gratefully. The next chamber contained flying keys and broomsticks. They quickly identified the key they needed, old-fashioned, silver, with a bent wing from being caught already. Quirrell's been through here, Harry noted, mounting a broom. With his seeker-like reflexes, he caught the key in under a minute. The chess chamber presented a greater challenge. The giant wizarding chess pieces blocked their path, requiring them to play their way across. Ron would love this, Harry remarked, taking the king position. With Neville as a bishop and Hermione as a castle, they methodically worked through the game. Years of strategy lessons with Regulus served them well. Check, Neville called, moving his bishop to threaten the White King. The White Queen turned, her blank stone face menacing as she advanced on him. And this is going to hurt. The Queen struck Neville's piece, knocking him to the ground. He winced but stayed conscious. You okay? Harry called anxiously. Been hit harder in training, Neville grunted, pulling himself to the side of the board. Finish it. Harry moved 3 spaces left. Checkmate. The White King's sword fell with a clatter. The chessmen parted, revealing the door to the next chamber. Snape's contribution next, I bet, Hermione said as they entered a room with a table of potions and a riddle. Flames sprang up behind and ahead of them. She studied the parchment, muttering to herself. Logic puzzle, brilliant, many wizards haven't an ounce of logic. It took her less than 2 minutes to solve it. This small one will get us forward, toward the stone. There's only enough for one person. Harry took the tiny bottle. Then I'll go on alone. You two go back, get word to Dumbledore somehow. Harry, Hermione began. We planned for this, he reminded her. I'm the one Quirrell and Voldemort want. My connection gives me an advantage. Take this. Neville handed him a small vial from their kit. Strengthening solution. And remember, shield first, attack second. Harry recited their training mantra. I know. Hermione suddenly threw her arms around him. Be careful. We'll get help as fast as we can. Harry nodded, downed the tiny potion, and walked through the black flames. The final chamber was large and circular, with the mirror of Ares standing in the center. Quirrell stood before it, turban still in place, his back to Harry. I knew you'd come, Potter, he said without turning, his voice steady and cold, nothing like his usual stutter. Always the hero. And you've been pretending all year, Harry replied, keeping his distance, wand ready. The stuttering, nervous professor. Very convincing. Quirrell turned, smiling unpleasantly. Not bad for a Muggle studies professor, The Dark Lord saw my potential when we met in Albania. He showed me the truth. There is no good or evil, only power and those too weak to seek it. And yet you can't get the stone, Harry observed, nodding toward the mirror. Stuck, are you? Anger flashed across Quirrell's face. I see the stone in the mirror. I'm presenting it to my master. But I cannot obtain it. Dumbledore's work, Harry guessed. Clever. Use the boy, came a high, cold voice that seemed to emanate from Quirrell himself. He knows. Harry tensed, ready to cast a shield charm as Quirrell beckoned him forward. Come here, Potter. Look in the mirror and tell me what you see. Harry approached cautiously, keeping his wand hand ready. He stood before the mirror, expecting to see his family as he had when Sirius first showed him the mirror years ago. Instead, he saw himself, smiling confidently. Mirror Harry reached into his pocket and pulled out a blood-red stone, then winked and put it back. At that moment, Harry felt a real weight drop into his own pocket. Well? Quirrell demanded impatiently. What do you see? Harry occluded his mind, drawing on years of training. I see myself as head boy. Holding the Quidditch cup. Quirrell cursed. Useless. Let me speak to him, face to face. The cold voice commanded. Master, you are not strong enough. I have strength enough for this. Harry stood his ground, wand raised, as Quirrell unwound his turban. Where the back of his head should have been was another face, chalk white with glaring red eyes and slits for nostrils. Harry Potter, Voldemort whispered. See what I have become? Shadow and vapor. Form only when I can share another's body. Unicorn blood has sustained me, but the elixir of life will restore me fully. Give me the stone in your pocket. Harry's eyes widened. Voldemort had somehow known. But his surprise quickly turned to focus. This was the moment they'd prepared for. Never, Harry said firmly. In one fluid motion, he cast the strongest shield charm he knew, followed by a blasting hex at the ceiling above Quirrell. Stone and debris rained down, momentarily distracting Voldemort and his host. Harry seized the opportunity to run, not toward the exit but circling the chamber, forcing Quirrell to turn constantly to keep him in sight. Seize him! Voldemort shrieked. Quirrell lunged, hands outstretched. Harry dodged, training with Sirius making him quick on his feet. But Quirrell managed to grab his wrist. Immediately, the professor's flesh began to blister and burn where it contacted Harry's skin. Quirrell recoiled in agony, staring at his blistering hands. Master! I cannot touch him! Then kill him, fool! Voldemort commanded. Quirrell raised his wand, but Harry was faster. Incendio! He shouted, aiming not at Quirrell but at the man's robes. They caught fire instantly, sending Quirrell into a panic. While the professor tried to extinguish himself, Harry made a dash for the exit. A curse hit him from behind, knocking him forward. He rolled, coming up with his wand still in hand, facing a now smoldering Quirrell. Expelliarmus! Harry cast, followed by Petrificus Totalis. Quirrell blocked the first but was hit by the second, his limbs snapping to his sides as he toppled forward, rigid as a board. But as he hit the ground, a wispy, shadow-like form rose from his body, Voldemort, abandoning his failing host. The spectre rushed toward Harry with a bone-chilling scream of rage. Harry raised his wand, but there was no spell for this. The shadow passed through him, bringing excruciating pain that dropped him to his knees. As consciousness faded, Harry was dimly aware of purple flames erupting in the doorway and a tall figure striding through. Dumbledore had arrived. Harry's last thought before blackness claimed him was that Sirius was going to be furious. He awoke in the hospital wing, sunlight streaming through the windows. Sirius was asleep in a chair beside the bed, head tipped back at an uncomfortable angle. Regulus stood by the window, deep in conversation with Dumbledore. Absolutely unacceptable, Regulus was saying. Children should not have been able to access those chambers, let alone face Voldemort alone. I quite agree, Mr. Black, Dumbledore replied calmly. Though I must say, young Harry handled himself remarkably well. Few fully trained wizards could have fared as well against Quirrell and Voldemort combined. That's not the point, Sirius growled, apparently not so asleep after all. You used the stone as bait, knowing Voldemort would come for it, in a school full of children. Harry shifted, drawing their attention. I'm awake, he announced unnecessarily. Sirius was immediately at his side. How are you feeling, pup? Like I got run over by the night bus, Harry admitted. But I'll live. How are Neville and Hermione? Fine, Regulus assured him. Minor bruises from the chess game. They're waiting outside, quite insistent about seeing you. The stone? Harry asked. Safe, Dumbledore answered. And to be destroyed, with Nicholas Flamel's blessing. A wise precaution, given recent events. And Voldemort? Gone for now, Regulus said. Fled when he lost his host. But not defeated. Your quick thinking prevented him from obtaining the stone, Harry, Dumbledore added. Most impressive. It wasn't just me, Harry said firmly. Neville and Hermione were crucial. And we've been training for years for something like this. Yes. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. I've heard about your rather unorthodox education. The Blacks have done well by you. Better than some. Sirius muttered, still angry. I wonder, Dumbledore said thoughtfully, if I might have a private word with Harry? Sirius looked ready to refuse, but Regulus placed a calming hand on his shoulder. 5 minutes, he conceded. We'll fetch Hermione and Neville. When they'd gone, Dumbledore settled into the chair Sirius had vacated. You have questions, I imagine. Several, Harry admitted. Starting with why my touch burned Quirrell. Your mother's protection. When she sacrificed herself for you, she imparted a shield of love so powerful that Voldemort, who cannot comprehend love, cannot endure contact with someone marked by it. Harry nodded. This aligned with what Regulus had theorized. And the Horcruxes? You know about them, don't you? Dumbledore's eyebrows rose slightly. You are remarkably well informed. We had to be, Harry said simply. After what we found in my scar. Ah. Dumbledore leaned forward. I had suspected, but couldn't confirm. You've removed it then? Last Samhain. Black family ritual, modified by Regulus. Extraordinary. Dumbledore murmured. And the locket? The ring? Gone. Harry confirmed. 3 down, 3 to go. Unless you know of others? Dumbledore studied him for a long moment. You are not an ordinary child, Harry Potter. I never had the chance to be. Harry replied without self-pity. Sir, we're on the same side. Sirius and Regulus have been hunting Horcruxes for years. We could work together. Perhaps we should. Dumbledore conceded. Though I confess I had hoped to spare you this burden until you were older. With respect, sir, that ship sailed when Voldemort killed my parents and left part of his soul in my head. Harry said bluntly. I'm in this whether anyone wants me to be or not. The headmaster sighed. Very well. When you return next term, we will discuss what I know of Tom Riddle's remaining Horcruxes. For now, rest and recover. Celebrate your victory, it was well earned. The door burst open, admitting Hermione, Neville, Sirius, and Regulus. Hermione immediately rushed to Harry's bedside. You complete idiot, she said fiercely. Taking on Quirrell alone. Love you too, Hermione. Harry grinned. Neville clapped him on the shoulder. Nice work with the fire spell. Quick thinking. Learn from the best. Harry nodded toward their guardians. Dumbledore rose. I'll leave you to your reunion. And Mr. Black, both Mr. Blacks, perhaps we could meet tomorrow to discuss certain mutual interests? Regulus nodded stiffly. We'll be there. When Dumbledore had gone, Sirius turned to Harry. Right, now that he's gone, what in Merlin's name were you thinking? That Voldemort was about to get the Philosopher's Stone and return to power. Harry replied calmly. We tried to alert the teachers. We tried to contact you. We had no choice. Sirius ran a hand through his hair in frustration. You could have been killed. But he wasn't, Regulus pointed out. They handled it exactly as we trained them to do. I'm still furious. Sirius grumbled. But also proud. Merlin helped me. Hermione and Neville settled on either side of Harry's bed, and soon they were exchanging details of what had happened after they separated. The adults listened with a mixture of horror and pride as the children dissected what had worked, what hadn't, and what they could improve next time. Next time? Sirius repeated incredulously. There won't be a next time. The 3 children exchanged knowing looks but didn't argue. There would always be a next time, as long as Voldemort existed. But for now, they had won their first real battle. The end of term came quickly after that. Gryffindor won the House Cup thanks to last-minute points awarded for the trio's outstanding courage and quick thinking. Harry, Hermione, and Neville accepted the accolades modestly, more focused on their private conversation with Dumbledore, where he'd confirmed his suspicion that Voldemort had created 6 Horcruxes in total. A magical number, he explained. 7 parts of soul, 6 Horcruxes plus the main piece. We've destroyed 3, Regulus reminded him. The locket, the ring, and the one from Harry's scar. 3 remained, then, Sirius concluded. Any ideas? I have suspicions, Dumbledore admitted. Items connected to the Hogwarts founders, most likely. Voldemort always felt Hogwarts was his true home. They agreed to share information going forward, a tentative alliance born of necessity rather than trust. On the Hogwarts Express home, the trio sat with Ron, discussing summer plans and next year's classes. When Ron went to find the trolley lady, they seized the opportunity for a private conversation. "Dumbledore's keeping things from us," Hermione said immediately. "He knows more than he's saying." "Definitely," Harry agreed. "But we got more from him than he intended, I think. And now Sirius and Regulus are officially working with him. 3 Horcruxes left," Neville mused. "Founder's items, he thinks. That narrows it down. Something of Ravenclaws, Hufflepuffs, and Gryffindors," Hermione listed. "Though Gryffindor's only known relic is the sword, and that's been in Dumbledore's office for centuries." "So too, possibly," Harry corrected. "And we have all summer to research." They lapsed into silence as the English countryside rushed past. Their first year had been more eventful than even they had anticipated, but they'd survived and grown stronger for it. "You know," Hermione said thoughtfully, "I think this is exactly what Sirius and Regulus prepared us for all along. Not just facing Voldemort, but making our own choices. Being a team. Family," Neville added quietly. "That's what they gave us. A weird, complicated, sometimes dangerous family." Harry smiled, looking at his 2 best friends. "The best kind." As the train sped toward London and the Black brothers waiting at platform 9 3/4, Harry felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever. The war had begun again, whether the wizarding world recognized it or not. But this time, they wouldn't be fighting alone. Chapter 3: Shadows of the Past. The moment they stepped through the barrier at King's Cross, Harry knew something was different. Sirius and Regulus weren't alone on the platform. Augusta Longbottom stood with them, looking even more severe than usual, and beside her was a small, strange-looking creature with bat-like ears and bulging eyes, a house elf, but not creature. "What's going on?" Harry muttered to Neville and Hermione as they approached. "No idea," Neville replied, eyeing his grandmother warily. "But Graham doesn't do social calls." The adults waited until they were safely in a ministry car with privacy charms before explaining. "There's been an incident," Regulus said without preamble. "This is Dobby. He belongs to the Malfoys, but he came to warn us about a plot against Harry." The house elf trembled, twisting his pillowcase garment nervously. "Dobby had to warn the great Harry Potter, sir. Dark plots are afoot, terrible things coming to Hogwarts." "What things?" Hermione asked sharply. "Dobby cannot say directly, miss. But a great danger, a monster, the Chamber of Secrets." Harry interrupted, exchanging glances with his friends. They'd researched Hogwarts history thoroughly before even starting school. Dobby's eyes widened to the size of dinner plates. "Harry Potter knows already. Harry Potter is even greater than Dobby thought." "We don't know details," Sirius clarified. "Just that Lucius Malfoy is planning something involving a hidden artifact and the Chamber of Secrets legend." "And this artifact," Regulus added, "we suspect is a Horcrux." Augusta Longbottom, who had been silently observing, spoke up. "I've offered Longbottom Manor for the summer. The wards there are different from Grimmauld Place, ancient earth magic rather than black family blood wards. It will make it harder for anyone searching for you 3. We'll rotate between locations," Sirius explained. "And your training intensifies this summer." Harry nodded, processing this. "If Voldemort's making another move so soon after the stone failed, it means we're on the right track with the Horcruxes," Hermione finished. "He's getting desperate." "What about Dobby?" Neville asked, glancing at the house elf. "Won't the Malfoys notice he's missing?" Dobby shuddered. Dobby must punish himself terribly for betraying his master's secrets. But Dobby had to warn Harry Potter. "No punishments," Regulus said firmly. "We've worked out a solution. Dobby will return to Malfoy Manor with a modified memory. He'll believe he simply lost track of time while cleaning." "And the memory of warning us?" Harry asked. "Hidden, not erased," Sirius assured him. We would never damage a magical being's mind permanently. Dobby is grateful, the elf squeaked. The great blacks are as kind as they are powerful. Not like Dobby's masters. The conversation shifted to summer plans, but Harry noticed Hermione's thoughtful expression as she watched the house elf. He recognized that look. She was adding another cause to her mental list of things to change when they had the power to do so. The first week at Longbottom Manor set the tone for the summer. The adults had devised an intensified training regimen that had them up at dawn for physical conditioning, followed by specialized magical training until lunch, research in the afternoon, and practical application in the evening. "This is brutal," Ron complained when he visited in late June. "It's summer. You should be playing Quidditch and sleeping late, not whatever this is." The trio had invited Ron over partly to maintain their friendship and partly because Regulus had suggested expanding their network of allies. Ron was from a prominent light-side family with extensive ministry connections through his father. "It's necessary," Harry explained as they took a rare break in the manor's gardens. "After what happened with Quirrell, we need to be better prepared." Ron shook his head. "Mental, all of you. Brilliant, but mental." Neville grinned. "Want to join us tomorrow? We're practicing shield charms against multiple attackers." "Pass," Ron laughed. "I'll stick to chess and sleeping till noon, thanks." Despite his complaints, Ron fit in surprisingly well during his visits. His strategic mind impressed even Regulus, and his outside perspective often provided a reality check when the trio got too deep into their training bubble. July brought Harry's 12th birthday, celebrated with unusual solemnity this year. Augusta insisted on a traditional pure-blood coming-of-age ceremony, typically performed at 17 but adapted for Harry's age. "The old ways have power," she explained when Harry questioned it. "And you three will need every advantage in the coming years." The ritual involved Harry standing within a circle of hawthorn branches under the full moon, reciting an oath to use his magic responsibly while his magical guardians, Sirius, Regulus, and Augusta, called on ancient powers to witness his commitment. As Harry completed the oath, a soft silver light surrounded him briefly, then sank into his skin. "Did you feel that?" Hermione whispered afterward, her academic curiosity piqued. The magic was almost tangible. "Like drinking warm butterbeer." Harry agreed. "But all over. Grant says these old rituals strengthen your magical core," Neville explained. "They fell out of practice because they're complicated and the ministry started calling them dark even though they're not. Just another way the ministry controls magical education," Sirius commented, overhearing them. "By limiting what's considered acceptable magic, they shape what's possible." Speaking of education, Regulus joined them. "Tomorrow we start on the Black family grimoires. Now that Harry's completed the first acknowledgement ritual, certain texts will reveal themselves to him." Harry's eyes widened. "You mean they were hidden from me before?" "Magic recognizes intent and readiness," Regulus explained. "The most powerful family knowledge protects itself from those not prepared to use it responsibly." The Black family grimoires proved both fascinating and disturbing. Housed in a specialized trunk Regulus had brought to Longbottom Manor, the ancient books contained magic that went well beyond the Hogwarts curriculum, not just spells, but magical theory that explained why and how magic functioned at its most fundamental level. "This is incredible," Hermione breathed, carefully turning pages of a text on magical resonance. "It explains why certain wand movements amplify specific types of magic. Hogwarts teaches the movements by rote, but this explains the underlying principles." "Some of this seems dark," Neville observed cautiously, glancing at a grimoire detailing blood-based wards. "The magic itself isn't dark or light," Regulus reminded them. "Intent and application determine that. Blood magic can protect as easily as it can harm. Your parents used blood protection for you, Harry, and it saved your life." Harry nodded, absorbed in a text about soul magic. "This explains why the Horcrux ritual is so damaging to the caster. Souls aren't meant to be divided, each split creates instability in the remaining portion." "Exactly," Regulus confirmed. Voldemort may have made himself conditionally immortal, but at the cost of his sanity and humanity. Sirius, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up. Just remember, knowledge doesn't obligate use. You're learning these principles to understand what you're fighting against, not to replicate it. But some of it we should use, Hermione argued. The protection rituals, the detection charms for dark objects, they could save lives. Which is why we're teaching you discernment, Regulus said. To recognize when the cost of powerful magic outweighs its benefits. As July turned to August, they progressed to practical applications of the ancient knowledge. In the specialized dueling chamber beneath Longbottom Manor, they practiced incorporating theoretical principles into their spellcasting. Intent shapes outcome, Regulus instructed as they worked on shield charms. Visualization is key. Don't just say the incantation, feel the shield forming, see its structure in your mind. Harry closed his eyes, focusing on the sensation of protective magic forming around him. When he cast Protego, this time, the shield that materialized was visibly stronger, with a faint blue-gold sheen that his previous attempts had lacked. Well done! Sirius called as he sent a moderate stinging hex that bounced harmlessly off the shield. That's the difference between textbook casting and true magical mastery. Hermione mastered the enhanced shield next, her methodical approach perfect for the detailed visualization required. Neville took longer, but when his shield finally formed correctly, it was remarkably resilient, taking 3 consecutive hexes before showing signs of weakening. Different strengths for different casters, Augusta observed from the sidelines. Potter has raw power, Granger has precision, and Neville has endurance. Together formidable. Their research took on new urgency when Regulus brought news from his network of contacts. The diary Dobby mentioned has been traced. Lucius plans to slip it to a Hogwarts student before term begins. Do we know who? Harry asked. Regulus shook his head. Not specifically, but likely someone vulnerable and connected to Harry. Maximum impact that way. We need to intercept it, Hermione said decisively. Too risky, Sirius countered. Lucius is watching for interference now. Better to identify the victim once at Hogwarts and retrieve the diary then. But that puts a student in danger, Neville protested. Which is why you 3 will be prepared to recognize the signs and intervene quickly, Augusta stated. Better a brief exposure under your watchful eyes than allowing Lucius to simply select another victim beyond our knowledge. The logic was cold but sound. They spent the remaining weeks of summer studying everything available about the Chamber of Secrets legend and the heir of Slytherin. The Black Library contained references most historical accounts lacked, including disturbing details about the monster within, a basilisk. Kills with a direct gaze, Harry read grimly. But Slytherin was a Parselmouth. The monster must be a snake he could control. That explains the petrifications in the last opening, Hermione added. Indirect views, reflections through water, etc., would petrify rather than kill. And the roosters Hagrid mentioned losing last time, Neville realized. The cry of a rooster is fatal to a basilisk. Sirius looked impressed. You 3 might have missed your calling as unspeakables. That's solid deductive work. Now we need to figure out how the diary connects to all this, Harry said. If it's a Horcrux, it must be able to somehow control the chamber and the basilisk. Possession, Regulus suggested quietly. Soul fragments can possess the vulnerable. Whoever receives that diary will likely become Voldemort's puppet. The implications hung heavily in the air. Their return to Hogwarts wasn't just about education anymore. They were walking into a battlefield with an innocent student as potential collateral damage. Platform 9 3/4 buzzed with the usual start-of-term excitement, but the trio approached it with determined focus. They'd arrived separately from Sirius and Regulus, who were conducting surveillance to potentially identify Lucius's target. Nothing, Sirius reported when he joined them briefly before boarding. Either he's already passed it off, or he's being more subtle than expected. We'll find it, Harry assured him. We know what to look for now. Their compartment on the Hogwarts Express became a strategy session, with privacy charms ensuring their conversation remained private. Ron joined them partway through the journey, bringing news that his sister Ginny was starting Hogwarts this year. "She's nervous as anything," he reported. "Been writing in some diary nonstop since we got back from Diagon Alley last week." Harry, Hermione, and Neville exchanged alarmed glances. "A diary?" Hermione asked carefully. "Where did she get it?" Ron shrugged. "Found it in her cauldron after shopping. Thought Mum bought it for her, but Mum says she didn't." Harry felt his stomach drop. "Ron, that diary, what does it look like?" "Small black book. Old. Nothing special really, except she won't let anyone near it." "We need to see it," Neville said urgently. "As soon as possible." Ron looked bewildered. "What's the big deal about a diary?" "It might be dangerous," Harry explained, choosing his words carefully. "Remember how we told you some dark artifacts can affect people's minds? We've heard rumors about a diary like that circulating." Ron's eyes widened. "Bloody hell. You think someone slipped it to Ginny? But who would target my sister?" "Not her specifically," Hermione said gently. "But someone connected to Harry through you. A first year would be vulnerable, easily influenced. We need to get it away from her," Ron said, looking pale now. "If it's hurting Ginny." "Carefully," Harry cautioned. "If it is what we think, it might make her protective of it. We can't just grab it, that could make things worse." They spent the rest of the journey planning their approach. Ron would try to casually observe his sister's behavior, while the trio would prepare containment measures for the diary once obtained. At the welcome feast, they watched Ginny get sorted into Gryffindor with mixed emotions: relief that she'd be close for monitoring, concern about the diary's proximity to their own house. "She seems normal enough," Ron observed as Ginny chatted animatedly with other first years. "Early stages," Hermione murmured. "The influence would be subtle at first: mood swings, memory lapses, exhaustion. We'll need to move fast," Harry decided, "before it takes a stronger hold." Their chance came sooner than expected. The next morning, Hermione spotted Ginny writing in the diary in the common room before breakfast. She approached casually, feigning interest in first-year experiences. "That looks like a nice journal," she commented. "Special?" Ginny clutched it closer. "It's private." "Of course." Hermione smiled reassuringly. "I keep one too. They're great for sorting thoughts, especially at a new school with so much to process." The younger girl relaxed slightly. "Exactly. And Tom is a good listener." "Tom?" Hermione kept her tone light despite internal alarms blaring. "My friend," Ginny said, then looked confused. "I mean, it's what I call my diary." "Silly, right?" "Not at all," Hermione assured her. "Listen, I've got some amazing self-filling quills that work brilliantly with journals. Want to see? They're up in my dorm." Ginny hesitated, clearly torn between suspicion and the desire to make a friend. "Maybe later? I need to finish this entry." "Sure thing," Hermione said easily. "Find me whenever." She retreated to where Harry, Neville, and Ron waited by the portrait hole. "It's definitely the diary," she confirmed quietly. "She's calling it Tom and it's writing back to her. Classic possession indicators." Ron swore under his breath. "I'll kill whoever gave it to her. First we need to get it away from her," Harry reminded him. "Tonight, after she's asleep, you'll need to get it from her dorm." "I can't go into the girls' dormitory," Ron protested. "The stairs will work for me," Hermione interrupted. "I'll get it tonight." The plan hit an immediate snag. Hermione reported back after midnight, frustrated and concerned. "She sleeps with it under her pillow," she whispered in their corner of the common room. "I couldn't risk waking her. And there are protective charms on it, I could sense them. The Horcrux is defending itself," Harry concluded grimly. "We need a different approach. Distraction and substitution," Neville suggested. "We create a duplicate diary, visually identical. then cause a situation where she has to leave the real one unattended briefly. Water, Ron said suddenly. She always puts her books down and moves away when people are throwing water around, leftover nervousness from Fred and George's pranks. If someone accidentally spills near her. The opportunity came 2 days later in the library. Ginny sat studying with her diary beside her textbooks. Ron engineered a collision with a second year carrying a water flask, creating enough commotion that Ginny jumped up to avoid the spill, leaving her books momentarily unguarded. Hermione, positioned nearby with the duplicate they'd created, executed a perfect switching spell. By the time Ginny returned to her seat, the Horcrux was safely in Hermione's spelled containment bag, and the fake diary lay innocently among the first year's belongings. Got it, Hermione mouthed to the boys across the library. They retreated to the room of requirement, a hidden space they'd discovered through the Marauder's map during their explorations the previous year. The room transformed into a secure laboratory setting with stone walls and protective circles etched into the floor. Harry placed the contained diary in the center circle. Even through the specialized bag, he could sense malevolent magic radiating from it. We should destroy it immediately, Neville argued. Not without understanding it first, Hermione countered. This is our chance to learn how Horcruxes work, how they possess people. Knowledge we might need for the others. She's right, Harry decided reluctantly. But we take no risks. Nobody touches it directly. Nobody writes in it. They cast additional containment spells, then carefully examined the diary without opening it. The name, T.M. Riddle, was barely visible on the worn cover. Tom Marvolo Riddle, Harry said. Voldemort's birth name, according to Regulus. So this was his actual diary once? Ron asked, looking disgusted. More likely a journal he enchanted specifically to become a Horcrux, Hermione theorized. The date inside matches when the chamber was originally opened. We need to contact Sirius and Regulus, Neville said. They should know we've secured it. And we need to watch Ginny, Harry added. Make sure there are no lasting effects from her exposure. The next few days were tense. Ginny showed signs of confusion and irritability as she discovered her diary no longer responded, but these symptoms gradually faded. Meanwhile, the real diary remained securely contained while they waited for guidance from Sirius and Regulus. Their response came via their emergency communication method, a charmed piece of parchment that displayed messages when activated with a password. Confirm no one has written in it. Hold until weekend. Coming to Hogsmeade under disillusionment. Meet at Cave Beyond Village, 2 p.m. Saturday. Bring in no one else. Destroy immediately after examination. Regulus. That's 3 days from now, Hermione noted. Should we try to learn anything more before then? Too dangerous, Harry decided. We keep it contained and secure. Focus on Ginny's recovery and watching for any signs the chamber might still be opened another way. Saturday arrived with unusual September heat. The trio made their excuses to Ron, advanced training exercises with special permission to leave grounds, and slipped out of the castle under Harry's invisibility cloak. The cave Regulus had mentioned was remote, accessible only by a narrow path winding up from the far side of Hogsmeade. Sirius and Regulus were already there, along with an unexpected third figure, Dumbledore. Sir? Harry greeted the headmaster with surprise. I didn't realize you'd be joining us. The situation warranted my involvement, Dumbledore replied gravely. Particularly given this may be our opportunity to confirm suspicions about Voldemort's Horcruxes. You have it? Regulus asked without preamble. Harry produced the contained diary from his specialized pouch. No one's written in it or touched it directly. Good. Regulus nodded approvingly. The possession would have strengthened if someone had engaged with it. How did you identify the victim so quickly? Sirius asked, pride evident in his voice. They explained their deductive process and their careful extraction of the diary from Ginny Weasley. Impressive, Dumbledore acknowledged. And concerning that Tom would target someone so young and vulnerable. Now what? Hermione asked. You said to destroy it after examination, but how do we safely examine a Horcrux? Very carefully, Regulus said dryly, producing a set of dragon-hide gloves and specialized tools from his bag. And with proper precautions. The examination was methodical. Regulus and Dumbledore worked together, casting revealing spells while carefully documenting the diary's magical signature. Sirius maintained shield charms around the work area, while the trio observed from a safe distance. Remarkable, Dumbledore murmured at one point. This particular Horcrux seems designed specifically for possession, unlike the others. It's interactive, Regulus agreed. The ring and locket were primarily containers, but this is meant to communicate, to influence. Could that make it easier to destroy? Harry asked. Unfortunately, no, Dumbledore replied. The fragment of soul remains protected by the same powerful enchantments. Only certain substances can destroy it. Basilisk venom, fiend fire. Speaking of basilisks, Hermione interjected. We've concluded that's what's in the Chamber of Secrets. A basilisk Slytherin left that only a Parselmouth could control. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. That is a most astute deduction, Miss Granger. One that had eluded many researchers over centuries. The patterns of petrification from the last opening, she explained. Indirect views versus direct gazes. Plus the roosters being killed, their cry is fatal to basilisks. We should be searching for the chamber, Harry added. Even with the diary contained, there could be another way to open it. The entrance has been sought for centuries without success, Dumbledore cautioned. Though I agree it would be prudent to locate it, if possible. Enough examination, Sirius interrupted. We need to destroy this thing now, before it can cause more harm. Regulus nodded, producing a small vial of clear liquid. Basilisk venom, acquired at great expense and risk. Stand back. They retreated to the cave entrance as Regulus carefully opened the containment and applied drops of venom to the diary. The reaction was immediate and violent. The book began to scream, black ink pouring from its pages like blood. A spectral form rose briefly from the diary, a handsome teenage boy whose features twisted in agony before dissolving into nothing. Tom Riddle, Dumbledore confirmed softly. As he was at 16. The diary smoldered, a hole burned through its center, the malevolent presence completely extinguished. 4 down, Sirius said grimly. 2 to go. Assuming our count is correct, Dumbledore qualified. I fear Tom may have created more than we initially suspected. 6 was always his goal, Regulus insisted. 7 parts total, including his main soul piece. It's the most magically powerful number. Perhaps, Dumbledore conceded. But we must remain vigilant. Now, I believe you 3 should return to the castle before your absence is noted. As they prepared to leave, Harry pulled Sirius and Regulus aside. The basilisk is still in the chamber, isn't it? Even with the diary destroyed. Almost certainly, Regulus confirmed. 1,000-year-old magical creature doesn't simply disappear. Then we need to find the chamber, Harry insisted. If someone else learns to access it, another Parselmouth, or another Horcrux. Harry's right, Sirius agreed reluctantly. The basilisk is too dangerous to leave as an unknown factor. But, he added sternly, you do not engage it directly. Locate only, then contact us. Understood, Harry promised. Back at Hogwarts, life returned to a semblance of normalcy. Ginny Weasley recovered completely from her brief possession, though she remained confused about the diary that suddenly stopped working. Ron stayed close to his sister, subtly monitoring her for any lasting effects while keeping the truth about the diary from her to avoid unnecessary trauma. The trio, meanwhile, launched their search for the Chamber of Secrets. They started with historical research, cross-referencing accounts of previous openings with the castle's architecture and plumbing systems. The last victim was found in a first-floor bathroom, Hermione noted one evening as they pored over documents in the room of requirement. Myrtle Warren, 1943. She died instantly, which means direct eye contact with the basilisk. Myrtle? Harry repeated. As in Moaning Myrtle? The ghost in the girls' bathroom? Hermione's eyes widened. Of course. We can ask her directly how she died. Interviewing a ghost proved challenging. Myrtle was temperamental and easily offended, but after several attempts, they managed to get her talking about her death. I was crying in the bathroom stall because Olive Hornby had teased me about my glasses, she explained, seeming oddly pleased to have an audience. Then I heard someone come in and speak in a funny language. It was a boy's voice, so I opened the stall to tell him to go away, and then. She paused dramatically. I died. Just like that? Neville pressed gently. What exactly did you see? Great big yellow eyes, Myrtle replied. By that sink over there, the one that's never worked. The sink in question looked ordinary except for a tiny snake etched into one of the copper taps. When Harry examined it closely, he felt a strange intuitive connection. I think this is it, he said quietly. The entrance. Can you open it? Hermione asked. Harry frowned. I'm not a parcel mouth. Are you sure? Neville questioned. You had a piece of Voldemort's soul in you for years. Maybe some ability transferred? It was worth trying. Harry focused on the tiny snake, trying to imagine it moving, alive. Open, he said. Nothing happened. Try again, Hermione encouraged. But try to imagine you're speaking to a real snake. Harry closed his eyes, visualizing a living serpent. When he opened them and looked at the etching, it seemed to shimmer slightly. Open, he said again, but this time a strange hissing sound emerged from his throat. The sink began to move, sinking out of sight to reveal a large pipe wide enough for a person to slide down. Bloody hell, Harry whispered. I can speak Parseltongue. Residual ability from the Horcrux, Hermione theorized, though she looked unsettled. The ritual removed the soul fragment but not all of its influences. What now? Neville asked, staring at the dark pipe. We found it, just like we promised. We should contact Sirius and Regulus. We will, Harry assured him. But first, let's confirm it's really the chamber. Harry. Hermione began warningly. Just a quick look, he insisted. We don't go far, and at the first sign of the basilisk, we retreat immediately. We've practiced a mirrored shield charm specifically for this. They had indeed prepared extensively, developing a specialized charm that created a reflective shield, allowing them to potentially see the basilisk indirectly without being killed. Still, it was an enormous risk. 10 minutes. Hermione negotiated. We go down, confirm it's the chamber, and come straight back up to contact Sirius. Agreed. Harry nodded. Mirrors ready? They each produced small hand mirrors enchanted to work with their shield charms. With a deep breath, Harry led the way into the pipe. The journey down was like a twisted water slide, slimy and pitch black. They landed in a damp tunnel littered with small animal bones. Wands lit, they proceeded cautiously, mirrors at the ready. This is definitely it, Neville whispered as they encountered a massive snakeskin, at least 20 feet long, discarded in the tunnel. Further along, they reached an imposing circular door carved with serpents. Again, Harry's newfound Parseltongue ability opened the way, revealing an enormous chamber beyond, a long, dimly lit hall with towering stone pillars entwined with carved serpents, leading to a monumental statue of Salazar Slytherin. The Chamber of Secrets, Hermione breathed, equal parts awed and terrified. Where's the basilisk? Neville asked, scanning the chamber through his mirror. Must be hidden somewhere, Harry replied, approaching the statue cautiously. Maybe inside Slytherin's statue? We've confirmed it, Hermione reminded him nervously. We should go now, tell the others. Harry nodded, but something caught his attention, a shimmer of magic near the statue's mouth. Wait. There's something here. Some kind of magical trace. Harry, we agreed. Neville started, but fell silent as a low rumbling sound emanated from the statue. Run! Harry shouted, realizing the basilisk was awakening. They sprinted back toward the entrance, mirrors held ready. They were halfway across the chamber when the statue's mouth began to open. Harry risked a glance in his mirror and glimpsed an enormous serpentine form beginning to emerge. "Don't look back," he called to the others. "Keep moving." They reached the antechamber and Harry hissed frantically at the door, sealing it behind them just as something massive slammed against it from the other side. "It's contained for now," he panted as they raced back up the tunnel. "But we need help to deal with it permanently." They reached the pipe entrance, but faced a new problem: how to ascend the slippery vertical shaft. Hermione solved it with a quick ascendio charm that propelled them upward in controlled bursts. Back in Myrtle's bathroom, they sealed the entrance with another Parseltongue command, then collapsed against the wall, adrenaline still coursing through them. "We found the bloody chamber of secrets," Neville said, sounding stunned. "And nearly got eaten by a 1,000-year-old basilisk. We need to contact Sirius right away," Hermione urged, already pulling out their emergency communication parchment. Harry nodded, but his mind was racing. "The basilisk is still down there, alive and awake now. And I woke it somehow, just by being near it. Almost like..." "Like what?" Neville prompted when Harry trailed off. "Like it recognized something in me," Harry finished uneasily. "Some connection to Slytherin. Or to Voldemort." Sirius and Regulus arrived at Hogwarts within hours, accompanied by a grim-faced Dumbledore. They met in the headmaster's office, where the trio recounted their discovery in detail. "Reckless," Regulus assessed bluntly, "but impressively executed." "You could have been killed," Sirius added, though his tone held more worry than anger. "Indeed," Dumbledore agreed, "though I must acknowledge the significance of your discovery. The chamber has eluded the greatest magical minds for centuries. The basilisk is still down there," Harry reminded them. "Awake now, and potentially able to access the school's plumbing system. It must be destroyed," Dumbledore concluded. "But carefully, with proper preparation. The sword of Gryffindor could kill it," Regulus suggested, nodding toward the glass case containing the ruby-encrusted weapon. "Goblin-made, it would take on the properties of basilisk venom after the first strike." "I'll go," Sirius volunteered immediately. "Harry can tell me how to open the entrance." "No," Harry said firmly. "I need to go too. The basilisk responded to me somehow. I might be able to control it, or at least distract it." "Absolutely not." Sirius rejected the idea instantly. "It's too dangerous." "Actually," Regulus interjected thoughtfully, "Harry may be right. If he retained Parseltongue from his connection to the Horcrux, he might be able to communicate with the basilisk. That could be invaluable." An intense debate followed. Eventually, they reached a compromise. Harry would accompany a team consisting of Sirius, Regulus, and Dumbledore, but would remain at a safe distance under his invisibility cloak, using Parseltongue only as needed to open doorways or potentially distract the basilisk. "Tomorrow at dawn," Dumbledore decided, "when most students will still be asleep, minimizing risk of accidents or interruptions." "What about us?" Hermione asked, indicating herself and Neville. "You'll wait here with Professor McGonagall," Sirius said firmly. No arguments. Neither looked happy about it, but they nodded reluctantly. "There's something else," Harry said as the meeting concluded. "The basilisk, it seemed to sense me somehow. Almost like it was waiting. Slytherin's monster would recognize a Parselmouth," Dumbledore theorized. "Even one who gained the ability through unusual means. Or," Regulus suggested more ominously, "it recognized a magical signature similar to the last person who commanded it, Tom Riddle." "You think I still have some connection to Voldemort?" Harry asked, alarmed. "Even after the ritual?" "Not a soul connection," Regulus clarified. "But magic leaves traces, patterns. The basilisk might recognize a familiar magical echo in you." The implication hung heavily in the air. Despite their best efforts to remove Voldemort's influence from Harry, some connection clearly remained, subtle but potentially significant. "We'll figure it out," Sirius promised, squeezing Harry's shoulder. "One crisis at a time." First, let's kill a 1,000-year-old snake. Dawn found them in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, armed and prepared for battle. Dumbledore carried the sword of Gryffindor, while Sirius and Regulus had brought an array of specialized equipment, including enchanted mirrors and roosters in suspended animation, ready to be awakened for their fatal cry if needed. Harry opened the entrance, then led them down into the chamber. The journey felt much longer with the knowledge of what awaited them. When they reached the inner door, Harry again used Parseltongue to open it. "Remember," Sirius whispered. "Stay under the cloak, keep your eyes closed or on the mirrors only, and run at the first sign of real danger." Harry nodded, slipping under the invisibility cloak as the adults entered the chamber proper, mirrors held ready. Unlike their previous visit, the chamber was fully illuminated now, green-tinged light emanating from unseen sources. The basilisk was nowhere in sight, but they could hear it moving somewhere beyond the statue. "Approach carefully," Dumbledore murmured. "It may be hiding." They advanced in formation, mirrors angled to provide maximum coverage. When they neared Slytherin's statue, Regulus signaled for a halt. "Something's not right," he whispered. "The magical signature is fluctuating." Before anyone could respond, a high, cold laugh echoed through the chamber, a sound Harry recognized instantly despite having heard it only once before, in the mirror chamber last year. "Welcome," said a voice that was not quite Voldemort's, but eerily similar. "I've been expecting you." A figure stepped from behind the statue, a tall, handsome boy of about 16, with dark hair and a Slytherin uniform. He was semi-transparent, like a ghost but more substantial. Tom Riddle. Dumbledore identified him. Or some version of him. A memory. The apparition corrected. Preserved in a diary for 50 years, then given new strength by a foolish little girl, and now, drawing power from an even greater source. His gaze fixed on Harry's position despite the invisibility cloak. "I can sense you, Harry Potter. The boy who somehow defeated my future self. How interesting that you bear my magical signature." Harry felt a chill run through him. He stepped out from under the cloak, ignoring Sirius's hissed warning. "We destroyed the diary," he said, confronting the spectre. "You shouldn't exist." Riddle smiled coldly. "The diary was merely a conduit. Once I began drawing power from Ginevra Weasley, I was able to establish other connections, including to you, my curious counterpart." "He's bluffing," Regulus said sharply. "The Horcrux was destroyed completely." "The container was destroyed," Riddle corrected. "But energy, magical energy, cannot be created or destroyed, merely transformed. And there was plenty of my essence lingering in this chamber, and in you, Harry Potter. Don't listen to him," Sirius urged. "He's trying to distract us." "Am I?" Riddle laughed again. "Why don't we ask Slytherin's pet? It knows the truth." He turned toward the statue and hissed in Parseltongue. "Speak to me, Slytherin, greatest of the Hogwarts Four." The statue's mouth began to open. Dumbledore raised the sword, while Sirius activated one of the roosters, but before it could crow, Riddle cast a silent spell that killed it instantly. "Mirrors!" Regulus shouted as the basilisk began to emerge. Harry closed his eyes instinctively, but found himself speaking in Parseltongue without conscious decision. "Stop! Don't attack them!" Surprisingly, the basilisk paused. Harry risked a glance in his mirror and saw the massive serpent hovering, seemingly confused. "You dare try to command my basilisk?" Riddle snarled. "You are not the heir of Slytherin." "Neither are you," Harry retorted. "You're just a half-blood named Tom Riddle who found a connection to Slytherin and exploited it." Riddle's face contorted with rage. "Kill him!" he commanded the basilisk in Parseltongue. "Kill them all!" The basilisk lunged forward, but Dumbledore was faster. With remarkable agility for his age, he dodged the initial strike while slashing upward with the sword, catching the basilisk along its neck. The wound wasn't fatal, but the basilisk recoiled in pain and surprise. Chaos erupted. Sirius activated their remaining rooster, which let out a piercing crow before Riddle could silence it. The basilisk writhed in agony, momentarily vulnerable. Regulus seized the opportunity, casting powerful binding spells that temporarily immobilized the massive creature. "The sword!" he shouted to Dumbledore. "Now!" Dumbledore advanced, but Riddle intercepted him with a powerful blast of magic that knocked the elderly wizard backward. The spectral teenager was growing more solid by the minute, drawing power from some unseen source. "You feel it, don't you, Harry?" Riddle called over the basilisk's thrashing. "The connection between us. The shared magic. I may not have created you as a Horcrux intentionally, but the residue remains." "You're lying," Harry shouted back, though doubt crept in. "The Horcrux was removed." "The soul fragment, yes," Riddle agreed. "But magic leaves traces. Patterns. Echoes. Especially powerful magic performed on a child during formative years. You still speak Parseltongue, don't you? Still feel drawn to certain types of magic? Still have visions and sensations connected to me?" The basilisk was breaking free of Regulus's bindings. Sirius tried to reach Dumbledore, who had been stunned by Riddle's attack, but was cut off by the serpent's massive body. Harry found himself isolated on the far side of the chamber, with Riddle approaching him, growing more substantial with each step. "We could be allies, you know," Riddle offered silkily. "You have potential beyond what these fools have taught you. I can sense it, power they've tried to constrain with their talk of light and dark, good and evil." "Shut up," Harry snarled, raising his wand. Riddle laughed. "You can't harm me with conventional magic, Harry. I'm not fully corporeal yet. But soon." The basilisk had freed itself and was now targeting Sirius, who was desperately trying to avoid its gaze while protecting the still-dazed Dumbledore. Regulus was attempting to reach the sword, which had fallen from Dumbledore's grasp. Harry made a split-second decision. If Riddle was drawing power from some connection to him, perhaps he could disrupt it. Closing his eyes, he focused inward, seeking the sensation Riddle had described, the magical resonance connecting them. He found it, a subtle vibration in his magical core, a pattern that felt foreign yet familiar. Instead of fighting it, he amplified it, drawing on the techniques Regulus had taught them from the Black family grimoires. "What are you doing?" Riddle demanded, suddenly wary. "Taking back what's mine," Harry replied, focusing intensely. He visualized the connection between them as a cord, then mentally grasped it and pulled, not away from Riddle, but toward himself, drawing the power back. Riddle screamed, his form flickering. "Stop! You'll destroy us both!" But Harry continued, drawing on every meditation technique and magical principle he'd learned. The connection between them flared visibly now, a golden thread linking Harry to the increasingly unstable apparition. "The sword!" Harry shouted to Regulus. "Get the sword to the basilisk!" Regulus, understanding, made a desperate lunge for the weapon. He seized it and rolled beneath the basilisk's strike, coming up with the blade pointed upward just as the creature lunged again. The sword pierced the roof of the basilisk's mouth, driving deep into its brain. The monster collapsed with an earth-shaking thud, but Harry barely noticed. He was locked in magical combat with Riddle, who was now trying to reverse the flow of power, to drain Harry instead. "You cannot win," Riddle hissed, his form alternately solidifying and dissolving. "You don't have the knowledge or experience to control this magic." "Maybe not," Harry acknowledged through gritted teeth. "But I have something you never did." With that, he opened himself to his deepest emotions, not just his determination, but his love for his found family. Sirius, who had given him a home. Regulus, who had taught him to question everything. Hermione and Neville, his siblings in all but blood. The connection between them blazed white-hot. Riddle screamed as the magic he'd been siphoning turned against him, corrupted by an emotion he couldn't comprehend or control. His form began to disintegrate, particles of magical energy dispersing into the air. "This isn't over, Potter!" he shrieked as his features blurred. "The connection remains. You'll never be free of me completely." With a final, terrible cry, the apparition exploded into nothingness, leaving Harry to collapse to his knees, exhausted but victorious. Sirius was at his side instantly. Harry, are you all right? I think so. Harry managed, though his entire body felt drained. Is everyone? We're all alive. Regulus confirmed, helping Dumbledore to his feet. The headmaster looked shaken but alert. And the basilisk is dead. What did you do to Riddle? Sirius asked, helping Harry stand. Used our connection against him. Harry explained wearily. Pulled back the energy he was stealing and corrupted it, I guess. With emotions he couldn't handle. Remarkable. Dumbledore murmured, approaching them. Very few wizards could have managed such a feat, especially at your age. He said the connection wasn't gone. Harry said quietly. That I'll never be completely free of him. Perhaps not, Regulus acknowledged. But that connection is now a weakness for him as much as for you. You've proven that today. We'll figure it out. Sirius promised, echoing his words from the previous day. Together. Harry nodded, too tired to argue. As they made their way back through the chamber, he glanced back at the fallen basilisk and the spot where Riddle had vanished. It was a victory, but an unsettling one. Something fundamental had changed, not just in the chamber, but within him. The connection to Voldemort was more complex than they'd realized. The Horcrux was gone, but magical echoes remained, not controlling him, but present nonetheless. It was a sobering realization, but also oddly empowering. If the connection couldn't be fully severed, perhaps it could be used, as he'd used it today. Come on, Sirius urged, supporting him as they reached the pipe entrance. Hermione and Neville are probably wearing a hole in Dumbledore's office carpet with their pacing. Harry managed a tired smile. They're going to be furious they missed all this. They'll get over it, Regulus said dryly. After they make you recount every detail at least 20 times. As they ascended back to the castle, Harry felt a strange sense of completion. The chamber was found, the basilisk defeated, another manifestation of Voldemort's soul destroyed. Yet it was also a beginning, a new understanding of the connection that bound him to his parents' killer, and the possibilities that connection might hold. Whatever came next, he wouldn't face it alone. That, more than any magical power or ancient prophecy, gave him hope. The last days of the school term passed in a blur of examinations, debriefings, and strategy sessions. The chamber incident was kept largely secret, with only a handful of staff aware of what had truly transpired. The official story involved a dangerous magical artifact that had been discovered and neutralized, technically true, if vastly understated. Ginny Weasley recovered fully, with no memory of her brief connection to the diary. Ron, sworn to secrecy about the details, stayed close to his sister, his protective instincts heightened by the near disaster. For Harry, Hermione, and Neville, the experience crystallized their purpose. Their training was no longer theoretical. They had faced Voldemort, in one form or another, twice now and survived. On their final evening at Hogwarts, they met with Sirius, Regulus, and Dumbledore in the headmaster's office to discuss summer plans. 2 Horcruxes remain unaccounted for, Regulus summarized. Likely artifacts connected to Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff, based on Voldemort's obsession with the Founders. And his main soul piece, Sirius added. Still out there in some form, possibly trying to find another host after Quirrell's failure. Our intelligence suggests he's fled to Albania, Dumbledore informed them. A remote forest where he's hidden before. Weakened, but not defeated. What about my connection to him? Harry asked the question that had been foremost in his mind since the chamber. Riddle said it would never be completely gone. Dumbledore stroked his beard thoughtfully. Magic of the kind Voldemort performed that night leaves traces, patterns in your magical signature that resonate with his own. Not control, not possession, but affinity. Which I was able to use against Riddle. Harry noted. By drawing on emotions Voldemort can't comprehend. Precisely. Dumbledore nodded. A weakness in him, potentially a strength in you. But it requires careful management. I believe it may be time to begin legilimency training, beyond the occlumency you've already studied. Mind magic. Hermione breathed. active rather than passive mental defenses. Indeed, Miss Granger. The ability to not merely shield your thoughts, but to direct and influence mental connections, including, potentially, the one between Harry and Voldemort. I can begin teaching the basics this summer, Regulus offered. Though my skills are limited compared to yours, Headmaster, I will make myself available for advanced instruction, Dumbledore promised. Perhaps in conjunction with our continued Horcrux research. The planning continued, with summer schedules arranged to balance advanced magical training with something resembling normal childhood activities. Augusta Longbottom offered her estate for portions of the training, while Andromeda Tonks suggested coastal excursions to provide necessary breaks. Throughout the discussion, Harry found himself watching his friends, Hermione taking meticulous notes, her analytical mind already mapping out research projects, Neville quietly confident, so different from the shy boy who'd once doubted his own magic. They'd grown so much in just 2 years, all of them. As the meeting concluded and they prepared to depart, Dumbledore held Harry back briefly. A moment, if you would. When the others had moved toward the door, the headmaster spoke quietly. The connection you share with Voldemort is unique in magical history, Harry. It presents risks, certainly, but also opportunities, ways of understanding and ultimately defeating him that would otherwise be impossible. You think I can use it to find the remaining Horcruxes? Harry guessed. Perhaps, Dumbledore acknowledged. But more importantly, to understand the man Tom Riddle became, and why. Knowledge is our greatest weapon against him. Harry considered this. He never understood love. Or friendship. That's his fundamental weakness, isn't it? Your mother discovered that truth, Dumbledore said softly. Her sacrifice protected you in ways Voldemort never anticipated. And your ability to form deep bonds, with your guardians, with Hermione and Neville, continues that protection. Harry nodded, glancing toward his waiting friends. We're stronger together. Always have been. Indeed, Dumbledore smiled. A lesson Tom Riddle never learned, to his great detriment. Rejoining the others, Harry felt a strange sense of clarity. The path ahead remained dangerous and uncertain, but its purpose had never been clearer. 2 years ago, he boarded the Hogwarts Express as a boy raised to face a darkness he barely understood. Now he returned home as something more, not just a boy who lived, but a young wizard coming into his own power, surrounded by family both chosen and found. Voldemort was still out there. Horcruxes remained hidden. The connection between them persisted, either fully understood nor controlled. But for the first time, Harry felt truly ready to face whatever came next. As they stepped onto the Hogwarts Express the next morning, Hermione summed it up perfectly. 2nd year down, 5 to go. And Voldemort doesn't stand a chance. Harry smiled at his best friends, his family, and nodded. Not against us, he doesn't. The train pulled away from Hogsmeade Station, carrying them toward a summer of preparation and the challenges that lay beyond. Whatever shadows the past still held, they would face them together, step by step, until the darkness was finally banished for good. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.